for being here, the candidates for District 16 for the North Dakota State Legislature. My name is Barb Hedrick. I will be your moderator this evening. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan league open to all citizens 18 and over that hopes to bring as much education and insight to as many citizens as possible before elections, between elections, as we do forums for state legislature during state legislative sessions, and tonight to help voters with District 16 candidates. We have 5 of the 6 candidates for District 16 here tonight. Mr. Koppelman could not make it due to an emergency, and we hope everything is okay. So the questions you'll be getting have come from members of the public in a solicitation by us. We've edited them somewhat for clarity and for organization purposes. We will start with a 2-minute opening, and we will start with Kari and move to the right, and then with the first question, David, the second question, Hamida, I'm sorry. Yeah. I can't get that right. I apologize. And we'll just keep moving that way through to the closing statements. Okay. Any questions? Okay. So Kari Brecker, would you please give your opening statement, 2 minutes? And the clocks are here, and the camera will find you.
Okay, sounds good. Hi, I'm Carrie Brecker, and just to start off, I'm a mother of 4, a small business owner, and I have a background in social work. I got my master's from the University of North Dakota. I was a child therapist working with child witnesses of domestic violence and sexual assault, have experience in the foster care system. I was a Prevent Child Abuse North Dakota board member for a while. I even alternatively also worked with a lot of victims and survivors of abuse, but I also worked with the offender treatment program, which was a very eye-opening experience for me as well. I have many other experiences that brought me to want to become a state legislator, and one of the main reasons is I believe we need more women in where decisions are being made. Ruth Bader Ginsburg's her quote, "Women belong in all places decisions are being made," really, really strikes me as an incredibly important thing to make or to live by. And currently there's only 22% of the legislators in North Dakota are women. I care a lot about it, a lot of issues, and we'll probably get into that a lot during this forum. But I probably care about a bit too much healthcare, education, being able to have a living wage. I personally believe that someone with a full-time job should be able to at least survive. And that's not happening for a lot of people right now. They need to supplement in a lot of different ways. And yeah, I can keep talking. I believe that COVID has created a very interesting experience for everybody, and there's so many different issues that we're having a lot of troubles with. I do think that education needs to be one of our top priorities, one of our top things that we try to fix right now. But like I said, we'll get into that later. My time is up. Thanks.
And that's the little buzzer you'll hear. We'll let you finish your sentence after it comes up if it hits you in the middle of a sentence.
Are we supposed to direct our talk to you?
You can direct it whoever you want to. The camera will find you. Brian in the back is very good. He will make you look good on TV.
Okay.
Thank you.
David Clemens, your 2 minutes.
Okay. My name is Dave Clemens. I'm currently serving in the Senate, and I thank the League of Women Voters for inviting me to this. I think it's valuable for the public to hear the different views that each of us has, and they can make their decisions on that. I've been interested in not so much politics, but current events and things ever since I was, I guess, maybe 20 years old. I had the opportunity to become the chair of District 16 Republican Party in 2012. I learned a lot with the political landscape at that time. And then I was at that time, I was working full-time at a salary job, and it was difficult or impossible to get out and run for office at that point. But I became self-employed, decided to run for the Senate in 2016. I have served on the Human Services Committee, which deals with a lot of human issues in our state, and also on the Transportation Committee, which is also very important on the travel ability of the people. I believe in limited government. I've pledged not to raise taxes. In the interim, I've worked on the task force for child sexual abuse, which is a terrible thing that unfortunately is happening in our society, and so I serve on that task force. And then I also served on the interim committee for physical review and the auditing of the finances and activities in North Dakota.
Thank you. Hamida Dakhani, your 2 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Hamida Dakhane. I would like to thank the League of Women Voters for organizing this forum. I would like to thank my fellow candidates for showing up. I will also like to send my thoughts to Kolpaman, whatever the emergency is. I hope it will be fine. Saying that, I came to this community 9 years ago as a student, and I went to NDSU for my undergrad. I graduated with emergency management and international studies. And during that time, I have volunteered with a lot of grassroots community organizations that are doing a lot of human service and education and all that. Through that, I came to know that there's a lot of need in our community, and I keep volunteering. I keep working in the education system. I worked as a mentor for high-risk students who are about to drop out of high school. I interpreted for families. I also worked with special need people in home and in group service. And during that time, I came to know that I can do more than just volunteering with the little time I have. And I started being interested in politics, and I started doing canvassing and door knocking for the Democrat Party, Senator Heidi Heidkamp. And through that, I came to realize that North Dakota has less women in the House and the Senate. So that's how I decided to run. And I hope that my hope is to have a community that is vibrant for all, that works for everyone, not just those who are privileged or those who have the opportunity. So I'm gonna
Finish
stop
your
there.
sentence.
So with that, I decided to run for the House, and I'm running because I believe we live in a community that is barely surviving when we have the opportunity to thrive.
Thank you. Andrew Marshall, your 2 minutes.
Thank you. I'm Andrew Marshall. I currently serve in the House of Representatives. I serve on the Education and Natural Resources Committee during the session. And during the interim, I serve on the Education Policy Committee as well as the Rules Committee. When I first got in, I really wanted to be on the Education Committee. That's what my degree is in education. We've done many good things for our local community, our kids, making sure that the teachers have the tools that they need. One of the things that we were able to get past this last session is helping to identify kids with dyslexia and making sure that they're able to get the needs that they deserved in order to progress through schools and be able to succeed in life. I'm a 24 and a half year veteran of the United States Air Force. I retired in 2005. I'm a graduate of Fargo North, and when I retired, I came home. I was a single parent. Couldn't think of a better place to raise my son, was right here in Fargo. I've done many different jobs over the years. I currently own a restaurant here in West Fargo, and I've served, I ran for all, this is actually my 4th time running. First 2 times First time I lost by only 8 votes. And the second time I actually lost in the nominating committee by 2. Need to say, I do not give up. When there's something that needs to get done, and there's something that that's very important for people, I'm going to get there. I'm going to do my best to get it done. Thank you.
Tracy Wilkie, your 2 minutes.
Bonjour, I am Tracy L. Wilkie, Wabishki, Gewiden, Ikwe, North White Wind Woman. I am a member of the Turtle Mountain Band of Chippewa, and I was born in Fargo 53 years ago. My first home was the Florence Crittenden home. And 8 months ago, I was at the YWCA, and now I'm a candidate for North Dakota House District 16. My background is criminal justice. I earned a police science certificate in the early 90s at United Tribes Technical College in Bismarck. And I also studied social work and criminal justice, and before completing my degree, I moved to Portland, Oregon, where I worked with teen mothers, and I was also a teen mother. But for 3 years, I worked with teen mothers and advocating for them, getting them the services they needed, and navigating them through the criminal justice system. And I also worked for Multnomah County Criminal Justice System for 20 years. We were a national model site for criminal justice reform. I know what it's like to work with people at every level and every condition and every sort of trial, and I will be a voice for the people. I've always wanted to be in politics. I grew up listening to Nixon on the television at the at the Turtle Mountain housing on the reservation, and I knew someday that I would be a voice for the people. And I'm a person who stands for what they believe in, and I'm thankful to be running with 2 other women who haven't run before, because together we'll figure this out and we will flip District 16. Miigwech.
Thank you. Oh, you got beeped. We'll start with the first question with David Clemens. And if at any point as we go around you've forgotten what the question is by the time it gets to you, just ask me, I'll repeat it. What is your top priority if you are elected to the state legislature? Do you see opportunities for Democrats and Republicans to find common ground on your priorities or on any of the issues facing our state?
When I was in the first session, which began in 2017, being on the Human Services Committee, I realized that there's a lot more problems out there in our society than what I originally thought. When the people come in sometimes crying during their testimony, saying that they can't afford to raise their child, or the drug addiction is destroying their family. Those are some of the things that really hit home with me. And so one of my priorities is, looking out for the people of North Dakota that need help. Now, if people are able to handle things on their own, I think we should allow that and not intervene with more government. But the people is really my priority, because that's what everything's about. We can build roads, we can build buildings, but we also need to build people. Thank you.
Hamida?
The question, please.
Sure. What is your top priority if you are elected to the state legislature? Do you see opportunities for Democrats and Republicans to find common ground on your priorities or on any issues facing our state?
Thank you. My top priority will be pushing favorable legislative for the people of District 16 and people of North Dakota. The things that I care most and the thing that I heard from the voters of North Dakota when I knock at their door, District 16, is education, healthcare, economic, which unfortunately the current representative have always voted against. The incumbent in the House have voted against bills of minimum wage. They voted against bills of more funding for education, feeding kids in school. Those are the things that I am passionate about it and the priority to the voters when I talk to them. So those are the things that I will push for. going forward.
Thank you. Andrew?
Thank you. One of my main priorities will always be the kids. Beyond the Education Committee, we have quite a few people. We have 2 Democrats on our committee. We've worked very well together when forming policy for our high schools, our K-12, our universities. Want to make sure that the policies that we currently have in place are still working. And if they need to be tweaked, let's go ahead and tweak them. And making sure that our kids get the education that they so deserve in this ever-changing world. The technology is just exploding out there with new ideas and new technologies. And we're just trying to make sure that we can keep our kids looking forward and engaged in the learning process.
Thank you. Tracy?
Can you repeat the question
Sure,
one more
sure.
time?
What is your top priority if you are elected to the state legislature? Do you see opportunities for Democrats and Republicans to find common ground on your priorities or on any issues facing our state?
I do believe we could work together on many issues, but the main one that comes to my mind is our children and their education. And during this time of the pandemic, that's the most important, that we continue to invest in our children and get them through this, and how that's going to affect them, you know, in different ways, and making sure people at different level, at different income, and that they have the same resources available so their children can learn. Because we're going through some dark times right now, and our children must be a priority. I sat in many classrooms throughout my career, and I know what the teachers go through, and I support their staff and the work they do with our children.
Thank you. Kari?
I ultimately believe that children and families are of utmost importance to do whatever we can to provide support systems for them. And I think everyone pretty much talked about education, which is incredibly important. Another area is absolutely 100% affordable healthcare. We have a huge problem with that in the nation in general. We don't have sufficient mental health care, addiction services. Families are struggling. Like David said, there's a lot of families struggling. I think the average person doesn't really have an idea, but when I worked in the social work field, it was astounding to me how much room we have to grow there. And I think that way too many people cannot afford to get their children and themselves, as adults, the mental health care that they need. And if you can't get the proper health care you need, you cannot succeed economically either. There's way too many boundaries for them. Yeah. And I do believe that Republicans and Democrats can work together, and that is my main goal, because I know we're severely outnumbered. And that's my goal as a Democrat. So
Thank you. Amita, this one I will start with you. What would you do to support public schools through COVID-19?
Well, COVID-19 has affected all sector of economics in our nation and globally. And my number one thing that I think about a lot, or I hear from families, is how the education system is not efficient when it comes to, homeschooling. There are parents who cannot have their kids home just because they don't have the resources. We have families that have special need kids, and the resources, again, is not available. So with COVID going on, I will always push for a legislative that will put our schools first, to put our schools first with the resources that the teachers can use to succeed the kids.
Thank you. Andrew?
During this time, it's very difficult, especially here in Cass County. with the increasing in COVID rates. We just recently put kids in remote learning. And we need to be able to, it's very hard for them. I hear from parents that extremely dislike that because there's no real interaction between the teachers and the kids, other than what you do on the monitors. And their social growth between each other. This is going to be a very trying time. We got to make sure that, especially at home, make sure that all the kids have computers, which most of them do, but there might be some out there that don't, and we need to make sure that they have the right tools to be able to get educated during this trying time. There are other.
Go ahead and finish your thought.
And there are other places, just not here in Cass County, but the rest of the state too, that they may do things differently, and we have to be able to be open to new ideas and new ways of doing things and making sure our kids are safe.
Thank you. Tracy?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Sure. What would you do to support public schools through COVID-19?
What I have been doing right now is collecting all the information I can I have a sister who's a school counselor and one who's a teacher. And I know there's a lot of issues going on besides the learning with the children's mental health and addressing their needs in a holistic approach and advocating always for the funding that they need and to make sure that their kids eat right. District 16, we have quite a wide variety of people there, but some kids, I know kids that depend on the food that they receive at school. So I would ensure that the children are being fed appropriately.
Thank you. Kari?
I think one huge thing that I've been pushing for lately is paid family leave for the teachers and the support staff. I think teachers have a pretty decent plan for if they were to get sick or have to quarantine for whatever reason. Support staff don't have as good of a plan set up for them. And the reality of the situation is we've only been in for 3 weeks maybe at school, and there's already been quite a few people being quarantined, and I don't even think that hits the news much. But paid family leave, a better program for that would ensure that when a teacher needs to quarantine, when a support staff needs to quarantine, that they do, instead of not quarantining or not being able to recover at home if they get sick, and then therefore potentially spreading the virus even further. It just makes it easier for families to do what they need to do to keep this virus more under control.
David?
Currently, the budget in North Dakota contributes about 1/3 aid to education and about 1/3 to human services. And so that's making up 2/3 of our budget. The federal government has given North Dakota $1.4 billion to take care of some of the problems that would come up during the coronavirus era. I feel that that's totally adequate. When we get into session, those of us that go to represent this district, that'll be an issue if they feel that there should be some more things contributed to that. I feel that some of the issues or mandates that are coming forward in our schools is really being a detriment to our children. I know of parents that have young children, I'm talking kindergarten age, and having to wear masks. That's not really, I don't think, a positive thing to be giving our young children.
Thank you. We'll start with the next question. Now, this one's a very broadly asked question, so you may want to take a minute before you use your minute. We start with Andrew. What is your vision for the environmental and energy future of North Dakota?
Well, one of the committees I sit on is the Energy and Natural Resources Committee. And these are things that we deal with constantly throughout session. We need to be able to get our products, making sure that we get our pipelines, some of the best pipelines we have in the world, we're building right now. They've got so many safeguards in them. Problems we have is being able to update the old ones or retire the old ones. We need to be able to get our product to market and be able to get it refined for our vehicles. The other is power production. We do a lot with wind. There's some solar going in, but these are not a constant supply. We need to be able to do with our fossil fuels, making sure that our power generation facilities are adequate to be able to handle the load.
Thank you. Tracy?
I will fight for our Mother Earth to protect from pipelines. I believe there's other alternatives. Our wind is a strong resource. We're seeing that throughout the state. I've been to a 5-day solar panel installation training. There's things going on that we could harness the free energy of the sun. And I've met with various groups throughout the city to have more opportunities to have electric cars and how to make that happen. This Friday at Island Park, I will be speaking on climate justice with a young group from Fargo, and will continue to do so to protect ourselves.
Thank you. Kari?
I definitely 100% believe that we need a much greener world. I think we have to transition ourselves to a much greener way of providing electricity. With that said, I know that transitioning too fast can put a lot of people out of jobs, which can severely impact families, which is my most important thing that I care about. I think there are ways to do it slowly to get away from the earth-damaging things that we do as human beings. But we do need to come together and figure out ways to do that does not severely impact our families and the communities that depend on it. So,
David?
North Dakota currently is one of the cleanest states in the nation. Along with that, I do believe we should work to keep it that way. We do have a clean coal industry. We have great growth in the wind energy part of it. The oil tax that we currently collect, 15 million of that goes to the reclaiming of abandoned oil wells. Another 10 million goes to lignite research and ways to improve on the process of developing our coal industry. So I believe that North Dakota is doing a good job currently, but I also want to keep it that way.
Thank you. Amita?
Well, I will say this. I don't have a plan in place about clean environment, but as a student of energy management, I believe North Dakota is going toward clean energy. And with that, I will support any legislative or any organization that want to support that to keep our environment clean. But as of now, I don't have a plan in place. But I know I've always cared about environment. I'm from Kenya, and we had a woman called Wangari Maathai. She was given the World Nobel Prize for planting millions. So environment means a lot to me. But again, as I said, I don't have a plan in place. But North Dakota is moving toward clean energy, and I will support that.
Thank you. Next question, we start with Tracy. What is your view of Measure 2 that requires an initiative passed by the public to go to the state legislature for approval?
I don't believe I'm well versed enough to answer that at this time. However, I will do all I can to learn about it. Which,
Okay. Kari?
It's Carrie, by the way.
Carrie, sorry.
Sorry. Okay, so from what I understand, I do also need to do a little bit more research on this measure. But from what I understand so far, I do not support it, or I don't think I do. I need to look into it a little bit more. But I believe that the purpose of having these votes on the ballot is to let the public decide, and I don't think the state legislature needs more power in those decisions. I think I'm understanding the bill or the measure correctly, but maybe David can explain it a little bit better. But
Okay.
David?
Yes, to answer Carrie's comment there, the legislature, so you know, really struggled with how can we hold down the influence of all this money coming in from out of state and rewriting our Constitution. So that's the basis of it. What they've come up with on Measure 2 is that the people vote on this. If it passes, it goes to the legislature. If the legislature in their vote agrees with this, with the result of the people's vote, they approve it and it becomes part of our Constitution. If they do not approve of it, it doesn't kill the vote that people made on the initiated measure. It sends it back to the people and they re-vote. Now, the purpose of that is that right now we have no time for hearings, testimonies, pros and cons of what this measure would be. But in sending it back to the people, during that interim, there will be open hearings and so forth for people to learn more about it. Then they re-vote, and whatever they say would be the will of the people.
Hamida?
Well, I'm just like any other candidate. I have no specific answer for this question. It's something I need to look into it. And as Dave explained, again, it's the will of the people. If we were put it in the hand of the people and we'll see if they will vote on it, then so be it. If people choose not to, again, so be it. But for now, I cannot decide whether I'll support or not until I understand and read.
Andrew?
I don't know how much I can add to what David has said. In the past, we've had initiated measures that we really had to struggle with when it came to implementing it because it was so poorly written or it was written from another state. They just brought it in here and put it on the ballot. This allows us, like Dave was saying, it allows us time to be able to look at the bill or the measure that they're trying to pass and be able to make sure that everybody is well educated on this, both in the voters as well as the legislature. And if there's problems with it, then we can be able to let the people know that where the problem is.
Any last thoughts before I get anything else? Because you see, got cut off there a little bit.
I don't think I can add anything
Okay,
more.
all right, Carrie. What can be done on the state level to address the issue of homelessness in North Dakota?
I think that brings us back to, mental health care, addiction services as well. I know that those are two pretty prominent issues among the homeless, not everybody, obviously. And I think we need to get creative. I would say compared to a lot of other states in this country, we do better in that area, but we have major room for improvement. I fully support the shelters that are in our community. I think those are amazing. There's a lot of programs out there. I think just paying attention to which programs are the most helpful and offering them the support that they need financially. I don't know. I think a living wage as well. I mean, having a fair wage when they do get a job, eliminating a lot of the barriers that people have when finding a job, such as if they have a criminal record. Some of those barriers are incredibly intense, and I think don't do our community any service. So,
Thank you. David?
It's a real difficult thing to try and solve when people are homeless. They don't have the ability or the desire to, be in society and be self-sufficient. One of the things I see in homelessness is issues that are causing homelessness, and I don't believe we should just keep throwing money at it and then just leave it be as a status quo. But we'll continue to work on some of these social issues that we've already discussed, drug addiction, alcoholism, and work to create them, or to create the answers to those things which we already have in place. I have served at the Churches United, a great experience to firsthand see what these people are going through, but there is a place where they provided housing and meals. And so if the North Dakota government could encourage more things through faith-based organizations, I think would be a positive thing.
Hamida?
Thank you. Well, this question is very interesting and very dear to me. And the issue of homelessness, not even in the past, if we just talk about right now with the economic hardship and with COVID-19 circumstance that just happened that we have not planned for, people are losing their homes just because they don't have job, just because of COVID, and what we can do about that is, number one, introduce bills that put measures into how this rental or this mortgage thing work for people. Because to be a homeless can be just 1 month short of rent will cause someone to be homeless. And that is not a choice, Some people get health conditions and the next month, they're thrown out. So I feel like we should walk across the aisle and create bills that will look into that and put money into that.
Thank you. Andrew?
No, this time with COVID and everything, it's extremely trying time. For the shelters, making sure that we have adequate spacing for people. The YMCA years ago helped a friend of mine, his family, actually it was more of a friend of my son's, get into the women's shelter down at the YMCA. I visited that facility down there, and it's pretty good what they do down there. We want to be able to, if somebody finds themselves without a home, we have to make sure that we do have adequate facilities out there for them. And we need to find out why they were homeless. They have lost their jobs. Okay, that's one thing. But then again, it might be alcoholism, drug addiction. We need to make sure that there are people there that can go ahead and help them through their addiction and get them on the path so that they can get a good paying job so they will no longer be homeless.
Thank you. Tracy?
The first thing I would do is fund our youth homeless services. I'm an employee of Fraser Limited, which was the Florence Crittenden home that I was born into. It's more than, there's a lot of different components. There's mental health, there is drug addiction, there is alcoholism, but there's also the system that wasn't set up for everybody to succeed. What the YWCA gave to me was a safe place to stay, protection. I am a human trafficking survivor, so are my children, and I will continue to advocate for the services that people need. Last night, I was able to sit in at the Fargo City Hall meeting, and Fargo's doing some awesome things and building some great places to get people self-sufficient. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question is a little long because the person who sent it in gave a little bit of a background before it. So David, you gotta be patient with me here. I was recently having a discussion with a friend about paid family leave. As a business owner, she didn't want to be responsible for paying someone else's time off, yet I've already heard that we're one of a small number of countries in the world that does not provide paid family leave. Do you support paid family leave? If so, would you support employers employers of staff who use it?
I'm opposed to setting a mandate that companies have to do personal family leave. I believe that if a company, let's say, wants to maintain their good employees, or if they're looking for new employees and they feel that for the betterment of their company and their employees, then it should be up to them to offer that. But in the legislature, I would not support a bill that mandated companies, organizations, and so forth, that they were forced to give paid family leave.
Thank you. Hamida?
Well, with everything going on, we have learned the importance of family leave and paid leave. People who have suffered can tell that. So with me being in the legislative, I will support family leave, and I will support for so many reasons.
Okay. Andrew?
Well, as a small business owner, I have at any given time approximately 15 employees. Sometimes it goes down a little bit less in the summertime. A typical small business like mine, it would be devastating. We would not be able to afford it, and we would go under. Your bigger companies, your Trail Kings, your Marvin Windows, these big companies that they can afford to be able to have paid leave, medical, and that kind of stuff. But the small businessmen and women out there cannot afford this type of a burden on them. And so therefore, I would be opposed to any kind of paid family leave on these grounds. Thank you.
Thank you. Tracy?
Having worked for a progressive organization in Portland, Oregon for 20 years and being an American federal, state, county, municipal employee, Local 88 for 20 years, I know what it's like to fight for paid leave across the board. And the times we're living in right now with COVID, absolutely families need paid family leave to take care of each other and their children. There's no other way around it. We have to take care of one another and unite, and that would be one way I would be willing to work together to get people that must go to work to provide for their families paid family leave. Should their child get sick or a close relative, there's different stipulations that must be met with that sort of leave, but I would support it 100%. Which?
Got one more thought?
No.
Okay. Carrie?
I think there's room for compromise on this and room for debate. I 100% understand what Andrew Marshall is saying. I know that paid family leave is very hard for small businesses. I mean, how do you pay someone that's not bringing in anything when you only have so many employees, like a small amount of employees? I think that the large businesses out there, we have a lot of those in Fargo, I believe that they can contribute to this. I need to learn a lot more about as far as how we as a state could make this work. We in America need to value our employees a lot more than we do. There's a lot of countries in Europe, for example, that do a very good job at giving their employees paid family leave, giving them just a sense of pride in working for their company because their company treats them so well. And I think that there's a lot of ways we can bring this into our culture as well. And as a legislator, I'm willing to have those conversations. How do we make this better for most, but also find a way to make it better for the employees of the small business owners as well? I think there's room for a compromise.
We've got time for one more question before final statements. And I want to tell the candidates that I've got some other questions I don't have time to ask you. If you'd like to see them, give me your email and I will email them to you. And for those of you watching, if you have questions for any of these candidates, just find them on Facebook, find them on their candidate websites and send them questions. They will answer you. Mm-hmm. All right, I believe Hamida. I even got it phonetically written down here to try to get it right. Same thing with Carrie. Hamida, you get to start the last question. Would you support redistricting reform that would put the power to draw straight legislative districts in the hands of a nonpartisan body such as the Ethics Committee?
Well, that is very interesting question, knowing that we have the census going on and we need to do that, but I will not give a solid answer to that question because I have not put a lot of thought and read about it, but I would love to get back to the viewers with my understanding and my answer.
Thank you. Andrew?
The problem with it is the redistricting lines. By doing that, you're giving it to an unelected group of individuals that are appointed. I find that is very dangerous. It needs to be kept where there is consequences. If somebody redraws the lines and they don't do it correctly, the consequences are they can get voted out of office. The people on the Ethics Commission, they're appointed. They don't get voted out of office. I'm against it. I think it should still stay with the legislature, and they should be the ones to be able to draw the lines. Thank you.
Thank you. Tracy?
Since being back in North Dakota this past year and a half, I've had the opportunity to sit for, I'd say, about half the last legislative session. And I've met a lot of great people working behind the scenes. And some of those great people are the Ethics Commission. And I believe they offer a transparency that North Dakota hasn't seen yet. And they are a champion for the people and will continue to hold people accountable. And I will support them.
Thank you. Carrie?
I am not well versed on exactly who's on the ethics committee, who they were even appointed by, to be completely honest. But what's most important is, I'm going to be totally honest right now, Republicans are known for gerrymandering. We, as Democrats, need to fight for that to not happen, because it is one of the cores of our democracy. We need to make sure that this is as fair as it possibly can be. So I mean, it sounds like Tracy knows some of these people, so that's comforting. I think there needs to be an equal representation from both sides to be able to sit down and actually hash it out and figure out, like, is it fair for Democrats? Is it fair for Republicans, independents, whatever? Is this fair? We just need to make sure that that is of utmost concern or utmost importance for us to retain the democracy that we hold so dear. So.
Thank you. David?
I would still believe in leaving it the way it is. I understand that right now there is a Republican majority in the legislature, but at the same time, in a matter of a few elections, it could be the other way. And I would still defend that we talk a lot about the representation and the will of the people. Well, I believe the way it's set up now is the will of the people because they have elected those that would be making that decision of redistricting. Now, my district, 16, all of our districts, district number 16, we have a lot of people in it, and North Dakota, through the number of districts in the state and our population, I think the median would be around, maybe 15 to 17,000, and I think we're over 20,000 now. So after the census, there will be some changes made, and that might be against me, depending on if another district wants some of my district, whether it's Republican or Democrat. So I would leave it as it is.
Thank you. We'll now go to 1 minute closing statement. Any topic you would like to finish on, and we start with Andrew.
Well, first, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for putting this on. It's a great opportunity, and I enjoy every time I come here and answer these questions. I look forward to serving in the legislature, making sure that our kids are well taken care of in the school, on-time funding, making sure that the schools have the funding to deal with the influx of children coming into their schools, energy, making sure that we do have sound energy policy. Wind is so topsy-turvy. There are things that we got going on out there. Some people even talk about mini nuclear power plants that are coming online, that are being designed out there. We have to look at all possibilities when it comes to our energy, and making sure that we have a stable, and we don't need to be like California.
Thank you. Tracy?
Miigwech to the League of Women Voters for hosting this today, this forum. It's very important for the people of District 16. I almost said incumbents, but you're the incumbents. For us to work together. We're all in this together. We must make sure that people are able to pay their rent and mortgages come the next blast of this pandemic, and have our children taken care of, and quality health care and quality mental health care for people, because we're all going through something nobody knows anything about, and with COVID-19, that's just expanding it. So we have to work together and find different ways. And thank you again for having this, and thank you everybody who's watching this. I appreciate your support.
Thank you. Carrie?
I would just have to say in closing that North Dakota has, like I've mentioned, the Democrats are outnumbered on a 4-to-1 ratio, Republican to Democrat, and we need more of our voices in the legislature in order to have a pretty well balanced government. We also need a lot more women. Like I mentioned, less than 22% of the legislators right now are women. Diversity. If you haven't, we've got Tracy is Native American. We've got Hamida who is Kenyan and a New American. We have a lot of New American. We have a large New American community in our district. We need the representation where the laws are being made. We need her voice, we need Tracy's voice, and we need my voice. So consider that when voting. We don't need more of the same, I guess. We have some fresh ideas, a fresh perspective, and I promise you will not be disappointed if you vote for us.
Thank you. David?
When I think of one word I'd like to use in my closing statement would be the word respect. My belief is that we have respect for life, that we have respect for our North Dakota Constitution, we have respect for our United States Constitution. As a veteran, I have respect for our military. I believe that we need to have respect for law enforcement. And even as the 6 of us or the 5 of us are here debating today, we have respect for each other. And I think that's been evident today. And I appreciate the questions that have come from the audience that have been sending in. I think it's been good questions. And I think the League of Women have handled this fairly, and I have appreciated it. And in final closing, that we just respect, I think Tracy was talking some on this, that we respect each other as human beings and we do what we can to make life as meaningful and valuable as we can. Thank you.
Hamida?
Well, with my closing, I would like to thank the women, the League of Women Voters and fellow candidates for being respectful, as David said. I also would like to say that I am guided by the strong beliefs we all shared in North Dakota, and I will walk a way that will going to be a voice for everyone. I will not represent only Democrat. I'm running a Democrat ticket, but I am not representative of only Democrat. I will walk across the aisle to make sure that our schools get the fund they want. I'll make sure that we take care of the homeless issue. I will walk across the aisle for innovative ideas to move our state forward, and always having the people of District 16 being the priority, knowing what their need is and addressing their need. Saying that as a community organizer, I've always worked in cooperation with other people and other organizations. I'll take that to the legislative, and I will strongly believe that people of North Dakota want change, and the
Thank you.
change is coming with us.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, we have to stop. We've got another forum coming up next. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for watching. And as we go toward the election, remember to wear your mask, wash your hands, and go vote.
Thank you.
good evening. Just one moment. Wait for a little bit of noise in the background. All right, we'll start again. Good evening, and thank you to all the candidates for joining us for tonight one of the 2020 Cass County Candidate Forums hosted by the League of Women Voters. My name is Katie Rudder. I am currently serving on the board of the League of Women Voters of the Red River Valley, and I will be your moderator for this forum. This forum is being streamed live and also recorded for playback on the City of Fargo's government BEG TV channel, TV Fargo 56, and this recording will also be posted to the League of Women Voters of the Red River Valley Facebook page. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization which encourages informed and active participation in government. It works to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and it influences public policy through education and advocacy. If you want to find out more about what we do at the League, you can find us on our website or on Facebook. I'd like to thank the City of Fargo tonight for providing the space for this event and for the technical assistance for our event tonight. Before we begin, I just want to review the rules and procedures. Questions have been submitted in advance by the public online. Questions may have been screened for clarity or combined with other similar questions. All candidates will be given an opportunity to address each question. Our candidates participating tonight are from North Dakota House and Senate District 44. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for their opening remarks. Each will then be allowed 1 minute to respond to each question. At the conclusion of our Q&A period, candidates will be given another minute for their closing remarks. You see a timer on the wall behind me. This will indicate how much time you have left, and when your time has expired, you will hear a little bit a buzzer. When that time has expired, this means that you need to complete your sentence so that we can move on to the next candidate or the next question. All right, we'll start down here on the end with our opening statements. Tim, if you would start us out.
Thank you, Katie, and thank you to the League. I am Tim Flacco, and I'm asking for your vote so I can return to the North Dakota Senate, where I chaired the Senate Education Committee and the Senate Agriculture Committee for a combined 14 of my 18 years. On the Senate Education Committee, we reformed our funding formula and a bill that I sponsored that also delivered over $1.1 billion in property tax savings per biennium. That savings to my North Fargo neighbors of more than 30% on their property tax bill, or at about a rate of about $1,030 on a $200,000 home. In my 10 years as chair of the Ag Committee, we diversified the industry and through visioning, we were able to increase our state domestic product from agriculture by 500% in 10 years, 50% a year on average, because we were able to really do some great things with centers of excellence and the like. But there's much more work to do, and it's clear that Scott Wagner and I are best suited to do the job. We are focused on what's doing best for Fargo and not tied to any part of the partisan position. It's important for the voters to know that my opponent, Merrill Pepcorn, is not his nephew, City Commissioner Dave Pepcorn. In fact, Commissioner Dave Pepcorn is among the people and organizations who have endorsed Scott and myself. So there's a difference, because probably the most common question I get is that the City Commissioner? No, Merrill's not. I think we both agree on that one. My major themes include strengthening our economy. When we do, it will address many of our needs, balancing the budget without raising your taxes, continuing to be a top-tier leader, ensuring a world-class education, and ensuring that we have the resources to overcome the challenges of COVID, and help seniors through homestead tax credit improvements and stop taxing Social Security benefits. I'm highly engaged in our community, serving on the boards of Northern Plains Institute, Homeward Animal Shelter, and Downtown Community Partnership, among many others. It's time for change because North Fargo needs a bold, trusted, and innovative leader who puts people ahead of partisan politics and delivers results independently. Leaders are engaged every day, not just in election year. Thank you.
Thank you. Merrill, your opening remarks?
Thank you to the League of Women Voters of the Red River Valley for sponsoring the Voters Forum tonight for the 2020 election. We've heard a lot about this year being the 100th anniversary of the ratifying of the 19th Amendment, meaning women now had the rights and responsibilities of voting. But 2020, I have learned, is also the 100th anniversary of the founding of the League of Women Voters. So congratulations on that, and to current members such as yourself, who have kept the organization a vital and vibrant part of our democracy, especially here in the Red River Valley. I was born in Stanley, Mount Trail County in western North Dakota, and raised in Fargo from 4th grade on. My parents were farmers, with my mom also being a country school teacher. In fact, she was my teacher in one of those one-room country schools for 1st and 2nd grade. I bring this up because as District 44 Senator, I represent not only my neighbors in North Fargo, but I must also deliberate matters that affect the entire state. I believe my Western roots and my Fargo upbringing uniquely equip me to understand the statewide issues as well as those affecting us directly here in Fargo and in my district. 4 years ago, during my first campaign, I was standing in line at the Dairy Queen when I happened to meet up with a former Fargoan and classmate of mine now living in Washington, D.C. He was there with his family. His wife is deeply involved in politics. I was expressing to her my nervousness and anxiety, really about issues, what voters might be concerned about, and things like that. And she said, "Yes, Merrill, that is one thing, that's important, but what people really want to know is how you make your decisions." And I can confidently say that I make my decisions based on what I've learned from my family, my upbringing, my neighbors, the outstanding people I work with, those wonderful old guys in my Wednesday morning Bible study, my fellow legislators, especially my colleagues in the North Dakota Democratic Nonpartisan League Party. I run with a good crowd, and I'm proud to serve as Senator from District 44 and look forward to being reelected to that position.
Thank you. Joshua.
Thank you, and thanks for hosting us tonight to the League of Women Voters. Especially in the era of COVID, it is very hard for us to connect with voters, so this is one of the very few public forums that we have available to address our vision for North Fargo, but also our vision for North Dakota. I've been honored to represent North Fargo in the State House since 2012. At that time, voters were looking for change, and with the election of me, we're able to bring some change to North Fargo, specifically in how we engage our voters throughout the election, not only the election year, but throughout the entire legislative process. We're proud of having hosted well over 20 community forums as a team over the last 4 years, both during the legislative session as well as outside of the legislative session when we've brought content expert folks to North Fargo, whether it's from state agencies, local businesses, or other groups that are working on issues important to our North Fargo neighbors. When I was elected the House Minority Chair or Leader by my colleagues in the House, we came into the session with the idea that we wanted to make sure that we were providing good public service when you need it, strengthening individuals, families, and communities, helping you achieve your American dream, and an economy that works for all. As a leader of the minority party, I think Fargo definitely understands the importance of having well-balanced leadership out in Bismarck. This last legislative session, that was never more evident than when we had change in the House majority leadership and what we were able to accomplish working with the executive branch and the Republican leadership. We were able to strongly increase salaries for teachers and for public employees. We were able to address mental and behavioral health care issues throughout our state, but there's still plenty of issues that need to be done. To be addressed. And I hope that the voters of North Fargo, as I continue to engage with them, are willing to send me back for another 4 years to represent them. Thank you.
Thank you. Carla Rose.
Thank you, and thank you to the League for hosting this forum tonight. I was first elected to the North Dakota House in 2016, and I serve on the Judiciary Committee. My background outside of the legislature is corporate communications. As Josh said, he, Merrill, and I have made it a priority to engage a lot with the district. We've held more than 20 public forums, and we regularly keep people updated on what's happening in the legislature, and more recently, what's happening with the pandemic. One of our team's policy priorities has been to support at a strong level education at every level, from pre-kindergarten to our K through 12 schools to our 11 higher ed institutions across North Dakota. We've also worked to improve healthcare in North Dakota, most notably the crisis related to behavioral healthcare. The work to shore up addiction treatment and mental health services is a direct result of the conversations that we have with our North Fargo neighbors. I will always remember the man whose son overdosed the night before I knocked on his door, and the woman who cried on my shoulder because her daughter had died of suicide. We've made a lot of strides with behavioral health, but there's more to do, especially with our youth and especially because of the pandemic right now. Personally, I've sponsored successful legislation that helps more veterans access dentures and glasses, and legislation that takes the first step toward bail reform so people don't sit in jail just because they can't afford bail. I've written bills and built coalitions to address North Dakota's suicide epidemic and to create a paid family leave program for the people of North Dakota. If reelected, these will continue to be my priorities along with healthcare and education. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Scott, your opening remarks?
Thank you, and I'd like to extend my thank you to the League of Women Voters. As it's been stated, it's been a very unique and challenging year, I think, for people, and it's no different for those of us seeking public office to engage with the public, and so thank you for this forum. I think it's a wonderful opportunity for us to engage the public. Thank you for that. As stated, my name is Scott Wagner, and I'm running to represent the citizens of District 44 in North Fargo. Our state, like our nation, is facing some challenging times. Now is the time for strong leadership that focuses on well-defined and fiscally responsible policies. As a longtime Fargo resident, small business owner, and with 12 years of leadership experience in local elected office, I am ready to work for the people of District 44 and our state. If elected, I'll focus on pro-growth initiatives that help strengthen our economy, invest in public safety to keep our neighborhoods safe, and ensure efficient use of our tax dollars. I believe I have the right experience and background to make a positive impact in our state legislature. During my time as the county commissioner, Cass County year in, year out maintained a low, stable tax rate while at the same time fostering collaborative efforts with surrounding jurisdictions, streamlining government operations, and enhancing core services. If elected, I'll bring that same common sense philosophy to Bismarck. And in particular, during my time in office, I was a member of the diversion authority that helped pick the diversion project. And that is a passion of mine of finishing that project and making sure that we have the resources. There's a funding gap of about $120 million on that project. And I don't believe that's something that should be laid on property taxes. I think that's something with 23% of our state's population that it's a great investment for the state of North Dakota. And to be the first diversion authority board member to ever serve in the legislature, I think that would be very impactful, especially serving in the supermajority where currently their 79 seats are held by my party. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll begin with our questions. If you need me to repeat the question at any point, please let me know once it gets down to your turn. This time we'll start with Merrill. The first question, what is your top priority if you are elected to the state legislature? How will you work to bring the two parties together and find common ground on your priorities as well as other issues?
Locally, and I'm speaking of my district, in District 44, which is basically North Fargo, what's mostly on people's mind is property taxes. One of the proposals, of course, coming out of the most recent legislature was the prairie dog bill, which now appears to not have the funding to deliver the goods, to deliver the money to the municipalities such as Fargo. Some of that money was going to be used in Fargo to ease the cost on property owners of specials. And now they're going to have to come up with new funding plan for that because the latest word out of Bismarck is that those buckets for prairie dog are not filling up. Earlier, in a previous session, I introduced a bill to restore the oil extraction tax to its previous 6.5%, which would have meant millions of dollars into the state budget and been able to provide property tax in that manner. When it comes to working together with the other party, I think we are all capable of reaching out and working with each other.
Thank you. Josh?
Thank you. My top priority is certainly our recovery out of this pandemic, not only the public health crisis, but how it impacts our economy. We are part-time legislators, but I think those of us, especially in leadership, have experienced what it would be like to be in full-time legislators based on the amount of meetings and the response that we've had to be a part of over the last 6 to 8 months. I've been privileged to be at the table with the governor and the majority party in finding solutions. We have funded $1.25 billion of resources to not only individuals in our state, but also to businesses and local governments. But we need to make sure that as we come out of this pandemic, that we are doing it in a way that lifts all North Dakotans up, that it doesn't prioritize certain industries, but finds opportunities for new industries, finds opportunities for entrepreneurs and for people to build their own destiny by investing in North Dakotans first. So I look forward to working with the majority party on that, just as I have the last 6 to 8 months.
Thank you. Do you prefer Carla or Carla Rose?
Carla is fine, thank you.
Carla, okay. Same question to you.
All right, in addition to what my seatmates have mentioned related to property tax and pandemic relief, I think one of our top priorities need to be supporting quality education in North Dakota at every level. That includes K through 12, and we support that through a per pupil funding formula, and we continue to advocate for a strong increase to that so that our local school districts can make the right decisions that they need to make to retain quality teachers, talented teachers, to meet technology needs during the pandemic, and also address the growing need for behavioral health services for our students. In addition to K through 12, which does have strong bipartisan support, we need to do more on early childhood education like pre-kindergarten, and we also have some opportunities to better support our higher ed institutions like with a research fund. Thank you.
Thank you. Scott?
Thank you. Well, as a 31-year small business owner and serving 12 years on the Greater Fargo-Moorhead Economic Development Corporation during a time when our economy was the envy of the rest of the nation, one of my top priorities, especially during this pandemic, is making sure that we are continuing to create a climate not only for job creation and job retention. It's no surprise. We all know that this pandemic has had an effect on our citizens. And the issue that I think is critically important, one of them, is to make sure that we have jobs available, people can pay their mortgages, their bills, they can provide for their families. And so it's been a passion of mine for over 20 years, being involved in economic development and responsible economic development that grows wages and grows jobs for our people. That will be critically important as we move forward, and I'm honored to have the endorsement of our Governor, Doug Burgum, a business leader who knows how to create jobs, and he's created a lot of them for our state. And so with his leadership and the opportunity to work in the legislature, I'd like to work on those issues of job growth and opportunity for our citizens.
Thank you. Tim?
Well, just right out of the chute, I think a couple of the big issues that we'll put over on the side is how to properly use the legacy fund to ensure we get that right and to strengthen our economy, to not choke businesses with high taxes. That's where Merrill and I differ greatly. He proposed a $450 million plus tax increase. That's just not my game. But I think what it comes down to, I'm going to speak to, is taking care of people, whether it's mental health, providing the resources to overcome COVID, but let's really focus in on K-12 education. Such as I'm well suited, I have a 90% pass rate on legislation in the last 4 years, but let's talk about career academies, which are put together by Tony Grimberg in conjunction with local schools and North Dakota State College of Science, but it can really dramatically change lives of people. We have 700 people a year that drop out of K-12 school every year, and that just really sets them up for a tough life, because I did a study, found out that there's 8 times more likely to be unemployed during the COVID crisis if you didn't have a diploma versus someone who had a 2-year degree or better. So we really need to strengthen those incomes and put that underpinning underneath them.
Thank you. All right, we'll go to our second question. This will start with you, Joshua. Low-income families face a lot of barriers and challenges at all times, but especially so this year with the pandemic. What do you think are the best strategies to assist low-income families, and why?
I think it's a very good question, and one, unfortunately, that the majority party in the state legislature continues to hamstring local control on. When we talk about low-income families, it's not necessarily because they have low skills or they're not able to work, it's because they're working 2 or 3 jobs in order to pay their rent, to pay for food, and to provide for their children and their health care. This last legislative session, the majority party hamstringed the city of Fargo and even the county of Cass from being able to have a conversation about our own minimum wage. Right now, North Dakotans, people living in Fargo in our neighborhood, are only making $7.25 an hour. While certainly there are examples of many folks who have made more because of a competitive environment, we still have a reality where there are folks, especially in the service industry and the hospitality industry, that are making less than $10 an hour. It's impossible to pay rent with that. And so we need to have a community solution, and we need to have a government that allows local communities to make decisions that work for them.
Thank you. Carla.
Thank you for the question. It's very important that we have an economy that works for everyone as we build North Dakota back up as we recover from the pandemic. The biggest issue I think that could help low-income families is coming up with healthcare solutions. Just this past week, I talked to 3 families who could not even afford healthcare premiums. I hear from a lot of parents who can't afford insulin for their kids who have type 1 diabetes. So the costs of healthcare are too unaffordable for too many families, and it's a big part of families' budget. So if we can make strides in making healthcare more affordable, making prescription drugs more affordable, and having more protections in place so that if they have a pre-existing condition, we continue to protect their coverage should anything happen at the federal level, that can help those families. Thank you.
Thank you. Scott.
Thank you. Well, someone who's actually served, and I think the only individual here that served in local government as an elected official, it's really that level of government where I say the rubber meets the road. There is no unfunded mandates you can pass down. At the end of the day, it's where the most critical services are needed and provided by our citizens. And so I spent 12 years in primary sector economic development. And so like Tim Flackel indicated, the Career Academy, I think that's something that should be funded. And having somebody that understands that. During my time in office with the EDC, we championed, for instance, tax credits that helped retrain workers in some of our manufacturing that went to automation, where we couldn't find people to work, but we had them retrained so they had higher paying jobs so we could fill those positions, and they were filled by existing workers that were retrained with higher wages. And you do it by, we had an economy that, we had an economy that we created an incredible amount of jobs. Wage growth for a 5-year period when I was in office locally here was at about 5%. We were the second fastest growing wage growth in the state or in the nation, next to Denver, for that period of time. And so what do? You create opportunity for people, and that's a good economy that has a lot of jobs and a pressure on labor. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Tim?
Well, one thing I believe is there's not one single thing alone that can do it, because it's a very multifaceted challenge that we have before us. Education is key, like I said earlier, whether it's unemployment or your ability to earn. Having a right environment where they're not choking them out with taxes and fees and other things. That's what brought Amazon here. It's one of the great things. They have 1,000 new jobs, or what I think they're starting at $15 an hour. Those are real jobs that can really help start people on a progress towards a better life and a better future. I sponsored the early childhood education bill, and that's vital to some of these families. Unfortunately, when I was gone, it got cut in half. Affordable housing is key to that, letting people stay in their houses after they've been in it for many, many years. That's why we're talking about a homestead tax credit as part of what I will bring to the Senate. And I have 9 seconds left, so I won't tell my story. So I'll just leave it there.
Thank you. Merrill.
Thank you. As has been mentioned, it's a complicated issue, and it does not have just one single silver bullet answer. Job training is one facet of the answer to provide for low-income families so they can be trained to better jobs. A higher minimum wage would certainly help. I know healthcare is so expensive, insurance and otherwise, that it becomes inaccessible, and then family members go without healthcare because they're afraid to go because he won't be able to pay the bill. And then these health problems are just exaggerated and become worse and worse and worse, and then eventually cost the taxpayer much more money in order to get them healthy than if they would maybe have some affordable health care. Those are just a few of the things we need to work together on to raise the standard of living for the low-income families.
Thank you. For the next question, we'll start with Carla. What is your vision for the environmental and energy future of North Dakota? That's a broad question, so if you need to take a moment before you start your answer, you can.
Absolutely. So North Dakota is very blessed in that we have an abundance of resources related to energy. And so I think rightly so, North Dakota has embraced an all of the above energy strategy. Related to the environment, as it relates to energy, there are things that North Dakota can do to do more to protect the environment in terms of oversight, to make sure that the companies engaging in energy development are following the right rules. I hear a lot from neighbors that they have concerns that there's not adequate oversight. Beyond what we have today, I think North Dakota can continue to provide dollars for research for environmental technologies to help develop new energies related to renewable energy. So we can look at more battery storage and transmission, things that help us utilize the energy potential that we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Scott?
Can you repeat the question again, please?
Absolutely. What is your vision for the environmental and energy future of North Dakota?
Well, I know we're going through some very challenging times, but we are as a nation and as a world, and so I think we're poised in a position better than most. We have a natural resource in oil that is really a blessing, and it really comes down to how we manage and use that. And so I look at, I believe in the last few years, about 5 years, about 50% of the revenue, our state budget revenue, is off from oil production taxes. And so that is really significant. And I think we need to continue to keep energy in the forefront and make sure that we have a climate that, we're competitive. You're talking about the oil tax that in 2015 that was restructured. The reality is if that tax would have been stayed in place compared to now with that restructuring, our state has seen an additional $532 million in revenue by modifying that. That's paying for property tax relief, that's paying for K through 12 education, and that is significant because it's offsetting that burden to our taxpayers of our state.
Thank you. Tim?
Well, I grew up on a farm and ranch, and about one of the things we know about that is that they are the original stewards of the land. If we don't take care of our land, we wouldn't have a very good crop, or we'll have diminished returns on it. So we're going to use places like NDSU to help solve soil salinity problems, which really is impacting so many places across the state. It's gotten much worse in the past few years. And we also had bills when I was in there on tiling, which helps pull that out of the ground, down into the ground and get rid of it. The EERC in Grand Forks has been vital in terms of tightening down on processes for emissions. We need to continue to fund cleaner coal initiatives, which I think did $10 million for a number of years. But we don't want to become like California, which is plagued by constant blackouts and rolling blackouts that really has been a result of choking regulations. I chaired the 1 Million Trees program for Fargo once upon a time. We also need to look at pipelines over trains, which cause emissions that are less safe, and over semi-trailers and such that are also create emissions and can really have some bad spillage.
Thank you. Meryl?
We need to diversify our economy, beginning with energy. The ups and downs of the oil business are extremely stressful on our state, and we need to fund our research energy, our research universities to look to the future. What is the future of energy? When it comes to lignite coal, yes, it is reliable, but most of our energy we create at the Coal Creek Station near Washburn, North Dakota, is exported. And the fact of the matter is, is that the customer base, the market for that energy is dwindling and rapidly. We produce much more much more energy than we will ever use here in North Dakota. I would propose that we invest in the future, whether that be solar, wind, and of course our great natural gas resource, which is not being utilized because people can't make money at it. Maybe North Dakota should consider investing in the natural gas industry and provide cheap fuel for all of us.
Thank you. Joshua.
Thank you. Building off what Senator Pepcorn talked about, the reality of our energy strength has been that it is a market good that we sell outside of our state primarily. And that is what's driving some of the decisions being made by investors within specifically the fossil fuels industry. And as someone who has been very outspoken in making sure that we take care of the resources that we have, whether that's the jobs or the making sure that we can make clean coal last longer and safe ways of transporting oil, but also we need to invest more in the future of energy. We've seen what's happened when our agriculture industry has invested in itself with ethanol, but that has taken a hit as well over the last year. So Fargo has continued to lead, the Red River Valley has, on renewable energy and a drive to do more with those renewable energies. So I would certainly continue to support investments in groups like the ERC up in Grand Forks and the work being done at North Dakota State University to make sure that we can provide energy not only locally, but sell it on the market.
Thank you. The next question starts with you, Scott. What is your view on Measure 2 that requires an initiative passed by the public to go to the state legislature for approval?
Sure. You know, I'm still working my way through understanding the whole dynamics of that measure. I will say I have concerns when we see Measure 3 being taken off the ballot, with this court case, recent court case. Outside influences trying to really do an end around our democratic processes. And when I say that, it was sold as a HEROES Act, and yet it had so many different dynamics in that, that how it would change how we vote. And in North Dakota, I approached a couple of people that asked, well, they approached me up at Northport about signing it. Would you sign it for our servicemen and women? And I asked to see the actual copy of it, and they couldn't provide it to me. I have concerns about that, but I also fundamentally believe that our citizens are the last decision makers when it comes to our democratic system, and that is something that is very important to me, and I think very important and critical to a democracy. So I have issues about that being the final decision ought to be our citizens.
Thank you, Scott. Tim.
Well, how did we get here to where we're at today? Well, because there's been a lot of outside influence coming into North Dakota, spending millions of dollars, and that was kind of a reason why they wanted to change that. I think there's good parts in there. There's the public hearings, the part the legislature can't technically kill the bill. Information is good. The public hearings are good. I sponsored a bill or a constitutional amendment a number of years to require fiscal notes be tied to initiated measures. However, my answer is going to be a little couched because I chair the Chamber's Public Policy Committee, and we have this issue coming up, scheduled to come up before us, and as chair, they need to have a fair hearing and a fair day in front of us. So as chair, it really is against my principles to say one way or the other until after that happens. I'll be happy to talk to anybody after that happens. But we just need to make sure that the legislature isn't too heavy-handed in any of this, and they have to convince people that they need this change. And I don't know that for a lot of people that's happened yet.
Thank you. Merrill.
Good enough. Thank you very much. When it comes to Measure 2, it basically just puts another step of government between the people and legislation. And the big argument is outside money is coming in and influencing the voters in the wrong direction. Just one example of how that didn't work. A few years ago, there was a bill introduced to change the pharmacy ownership laws in North Dakota. I don't need to go into the details, but the big drugstore companies, the Walgreens, the Walmarts, wanted to change the law, and they spent $10 million on a campaign that was opposed by the local pharmacy owners with just hundreds of thousands of dollars. That measure did not pass. So money does not buy all elections. The people can decide, and not only on those big measures, but on local legislative races as well.
Thank you. Joshua?
Thank you, Katie. I think first of all, for the viewers to understand that what Measure 2 is. Measure 2 was put on the ballot by the Republican supermajority that says if the citizens passed a constitutional amendment, that the legislature has to approve it for it to go forward. And if the legislature doesn't approve what the voters approved, then it has to go back to the voters again. I think it's the biggest slap in the face of direct democracy that's out there. It's an assault on direct democracy and our storied history of the ballot initiative process for voters. And voters are the last check of us as policymakers, whether that's the legislative branch, it's our local government, or it's the executive branch. And so I would encourage voters to vote no on Measure 2. I opposed it in the legislature. We do not need more power given to the legislature. In fact, we need to give more power back to the voters because we know that direct democracy, things have always worked out. Many of these ballot initiatives that the Republican Party has been opposed to have been attempted legislatively. But because of the opposition of the Republican Party, they could have fixed these things themselves, but decided not to, so it went to the hands of the voters. Thank you.
Thank you. Carla?
Thank you. I plan to vote no on Measure 2. The people of North Dakota do hold dear their ability to engage in direct democracy. And what this measure does is really water down the people's power and take that power away from them. So people need to retain their full rights. They don't need the legislature as a babysitter for their decisions at the ballot. As Representative Boucher said, the legislature doesn't always reflect the will of the people. We've seen time and time again where they were reluctant to pass anything related to medical marijuana or to pass an ethics measure, or they do the opposite of the will of the people and they passed a bill that would have allowed corporate farming in North Dakota. So the people had to use the power of the ballot to reverse that. So I want people to keep their full rights around initiated measures, and I trust North Dakotans with their full rights and their vote. Thanks.
Thank you. We'll begin with you, Tim, for the next question. What more can we do to support mental health services in our state?
Well, I spent a lot of time talking to Senator Judy Lee, who is as much of an expert as you'll find in the United States. And we've really came a long ways in the past number of years. But really, first of all, we have to get rid of the stigma, as the First Lady would talk about, of some mental health related disorders. We need to look at the root cause, whether it's from nature or from the environment that they're in. Certainly, there are things that have been caused with PTSD from a variety of sources, so they're all very individualistic. And we are doing better and better all the time in terms of providing the dollars that will really engage those folks. We have a lot of help from a variety of people, whether it's the free through recovery programs for people coming out of the jail systems to make sure that they don't fall into a bad cycle that may be caused by this. So really, we need to look at best practices across the United States and continue to share and map those out for people in North Dakota, because it is really a major cause of problems for families and beyond, whether it's for Officer Mosier or otherwise.
Thank you. Meryl, we'll go to you next.
We as a loving and caring society owe it to all members of society to treat each other humanely and in a respectful manner, including those that are mentally ill, that with proper counseling and medication and treatment can participate in a full life. Now, I fully support the First Lady's Recovery Reinvented program. It gives hope to a lot of people. And drug addiction and addiction to alcohol is a major contribution to the deterioration of people's mental health. So we do need to invest in that, and that keeps people out of, it gives people the chance to live a full life for their own personal happiness, and in the long run, it also decreases the costs and the burdens to the state by helping to keep people out of prison where we have to pay for them. So we have a long way to go. We can't give up.
Thank you. Josh?
Thank you, Katie. I think we need to continue down the path of what we've been doing as a state. Over the last 4 and 8 years that I've served in the legislature, we've invested more and more in mental and behavioral health. We've redirected funding. A great example was working with the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation to move $7 million out of their budget to do preventative work, so that we were working with folks while they were entering the criminal justice system to provide diversion and make sure that they were getting the support that they needed. My colleague, Representative Rose Hansen, is going to certainly be able to answer more statistics around the criminal justice system based on her role in the Judiciary Committee, but we know that when we invest in people early, whether that's in early childhood education, whether it's in preventative disease, when it's in support before or as they're entering into an addiction, that we can save millions of dollars in the long run. And we have an opportunity as we come out of this pandemic to rethink how we do government, to do government differently and invest in people earlier so that they can continue to be successful later on in their life.
Thank you. Carla?
Thank you for the question. As I mentioned in my introduction, this is one of my top priorities to deal with behavioral health in the state. We have made some strides, but there is more to do. I would put the category, I'd create 3 categories of where we need to create more focus in the upcoming year. The first is for mental health for our youth, both services in school and out of school in the community. The need for youth services is even higher now during the pandemic and the isolation we see. We also need more crisis services. We know that our law enforcement is frequently called to homes for people who are threatening suicide, and that's dangerous for our law enforcement. And North Dakota's suicide rate is unacceptably high. The third area where we could do more is with a voucher program. We have a substance use disorder voucher program, as well as mental health services, but the funding for that ran out after only 1 year. So there's more we can do. Thank you.
Thank you. Scott?
Thank you. Well, I served 12 years on the Cass County Social Services Board. In fact, I chaired the board for two years. And part of the issue is, I think, an alignment of resources, so and agencies. One of the issues that was difficult when I was in office, when we looked at some of the individuals that are homeless in our community. A number of them are, facing mental health issues, and as been stated, it's been, compounded and exacerbated by chemical dependency. And so I think it's critical that we continue providing those services. For instance, Southeast Human Services Division off Main works with that homeless population. But I think a critical alignment of services, and the very difficult, honest part of this too is getting people to know that they have an issue and wanting to stay through recovery. When I was in office, when the wet house was proposed, one of the concerns that we had was, for instance,
You'll finish your thought?
well, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
The
You
little,
can finish your
the buzzer,
sentence.
yes. Was the Salvation Army indicating that people needed, to sober up when they came in overnight. And so some of even the providers in the community of how do you work with somebody to have accountability to help them help themselves. And that becomes a very challenging part of this. So, thank you.
So we have time for one more question. If the viewers at home didn't get their questions answered tonight, because we did have more on the list, I encourage you to reach out to these candidates on their Facebook pages, on their campaign websites. They'd be happy to answer any of these questions for you. So our final question, we will begin with Merrill. Do you support paid family leave? If so, how would you support employers of staff who use it?
Yes, I do support paid family leave. I'll give you one example of how it works in another state, our neighbors in Minnesota. It's also a very good recruitment for our young people when they're looking for jobs, when paid family leave is readily available in Minnesota. My son is the new father of a 4.5-month-old girl. He just went back, even though he's been working at home for the past several months, he just went back to work after 6 weeks of paid family leave for a large medical supply company. His wife is employed as a veterinarian by a very small veterinary operation in downtown St. Paul. She also had paid family leave, but she also came up with a way to do some of her work remotely. So it's a great recruitment tool. It doesn't have to be paid for exclusively by the employer, but there are people, including my colleague, Carla Rose Hansen, who's heading up a study on this and has actually presented a bill on it to get people to collaborate on this, employees and employers, to make it possible for the young families, and we need it.
Thank you. Joshua.
Thank you, Katie, for the question and for those that asked out. And I think, well, first of all, yes, absolutely. I support paid family leave. I supported it in this past legislative session. I'll let Representative Rose Hansen talk about the details since she was a champion of the bill and continues to have important conversations around it. But we know that with this next generation of workforce, paid family leave is one of the things that they look for. When we look at what private business has done for a generation, they have invested in programs like paid family leave. So by providing the option to incentivize our employers, whether they're small businesses or large corporations, to invest in their people by providing support when they're starting a family, when they're taking care of a loved one, or when they themselves are ill, we know that people make good decisions and that the work still gets done. Nothing is more clear than what happened with this pandemic. We had workforce who was going to work because it was a decision about being paid or not, and by bringing a virus into their workplace, continued to get more people sick. When we talk to public health folks, they know that if we have a strong public health or paid family leave program, we have strong public health and we have strong families.
Thank you. Carla?
Thank you for the question. I absolutely support paid family leave in North Dakota. As was mentioned, I was the lead sponsor. I authored a bill in 2019 to create a state-level program for paid family leave. We know that paid family leave is good for families and good for businesses. It's good for families because far too many people have to choose between either caring for themselves or caring for a loved one, either a new child in their family or maybe an aging parent. We know it's good for businesses because research shows that in other countries and other states that offer this, that they do a better job of recruiting talented employees to their company because of this benefit, as well as retaining those employees because those employees feel valued and are not so distracted with these other situations during a major medical event. So it would be very good for North Dakota if we advance this policy. Thank you.
Thank you. Scott?
Yeah, I actually believe it's great in concept, and I think I've just heard a number of people indicate that, a lot of businesses are doing that. The issue becomes when we talk about paid, who's going to pay for that? If you're identifying that you're going to mandate that to employers, they're going to pass that. Those are decisions that employers are now going to have to make in terms of the complexity of how they pay and provide benefits to their employees. So are they not going to pay as much per hour? Is their annual leave going to be restricted or lowered? Or are you going to impose a tax on them? Is there a revenue source that you're outlining for proponents of this at the state level? Tell me what taxes you're going to increase. I never hear that. I think a competitive, diversified economy where we have competition for labor. We had a point when I was in office that we had 300 open engineering positions in Fargo that couldn't be filled. What do you think that did for the engineers that were there? It created competition. That means salary, benefits, and that's a healthy environment that handles that. But I'm all for family leave. But on the paid side, the issue, are you going to mandate it by the employer? And if so, what gets sacrificed with the employee? And second, if it's going to be paid for under state taxes, tell me what taxes you're going to raise.
Thank you so much. Tim?
There we go. I shut it off in between. So, well, clearly the first path forward, I believe, is competition, whether it's Amazon coming into town, trying to compete for jobs or otherwise. There's competition really will help move the dial and bring this along. I think there is common ground for people who like it, love it, thinking about it. want to do it. And I sponsored legislation with Senator Oban that would have helped in that regard a few years ago. But we also have to consider the nuances and complexities of various enterprises. Small mom and pop operation of maybe 5 and under, or a business of 12 or 15, it's much tougher than a large business. So I think we should look at the possibility of going in, and the state could be the receptacle that could combine the funds for these small organizations that want to participate in them, and then that cost could be spread out across a larger pool of people, and that may be one of the paths forward. But that's, again, why it's really super important, again, to have like early childhood education and programs like that, so they're not double burdened with challenging of trying to take care of a lot of children, or maybe they're not healthy, and they have to do that too.
Thank you. That concludes the question and answer portion of our forum. Thank you to everyone who submitted questions for our candidates at home, and thank you, candidates, for participating in this forum. We'll now continue with closing remarks. One more note to the audience at home: if you'd like to continue learning more about your candidates, the League of Women Voters has partnered with Forum Communications to present the Vote 411 Voters Guide to help you learn more about North Dakota candidates' positions on important issues. Stay tuned to the forum and the League Facebook page. The Voters Guide will be released on September 28th. All right, so Joshua, we'll begin with your closing remarks. You each have a minute.
Thank you, Katie. And again, thank you to the League of Women Voters and the City of Fargo for allowing us to use this space. We know that when we have an educated citizenry, we have the best form of democracy. I'm asking our North Fargo friends and neighbors for another 4 years to represent them. I think that our team has showed the way that we can engage with people, whether they agree with us or not, by holding the community forums and regularly corresponding about what's happening in Bismarck. But even more importantly, that we are working with the majority party when we agree on things and advancing things that are important to North Fargo neighbors, but also holding the majority party accountable when they decide to make some bad decisions. And so with one party rule, with a supermajority, we know that places like the City of Fargo and Cass County get hurt because Bismarck is making central decisions that impact what we can and can't do. And so our opponents are going to continue to say that as the minority party, you shouldn't send us back, but I think it's very well evidenced to our neighbors the value that we provided by being out there on their behalf.
Carla.
Thank you. So thank you to the League for hosting this forum, and thanks to all the people at home who are watching from their computers. So I'm asking my neighbors to re-elect me simply because there's more to do to keep moving North Dakota forward. We've spent the last hour talking about a lot of policy priorities. Among mine are improving the affordability of healthcare, making sure that we have strong support for education at every level, from pre-K to K through 12 schools to our higher education institutions. We need an economy that works for everyone by pushing forward policies like paid family leave. And we also need to improve our behavioral health services as well. But beyond the policies, we also need to make sure that we're doing the work in a way, how we do the work is also important. And so one of the things I pledge to do is to continue to be engaged with our district, listening to them and keeping them informed. So thank you.
Thank you. Scott?
Thank you. Once again, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for this forum this evening and the opportunity to speak to the voters of District 44. As I stated earlier, as a 31-year small business owner and a former 3-term Cass County Commissioner who has served in local government, understands the impact that our state has on our citizens at the local level and have been a local leader in areas in diversion, economic development. I'd like to take that experience to work for the citizens of District 44 and our state. And when we talk about experience and leadership and effectiveness, it absolutely is important. We talk about what Fargo gets and what it doesn't get. Well, we need more people in the majority that can advocate. The decisions are going to be made in the majority. They're going to be made in the Republican caucus. They have 79 of the 94 House seats. If we double the Democrats in the House, they'd still be outvoted 2-1. If we triple, they'd still be in the minority. That's one of the reasons I decided to run, because I am passionate about the issues of our local committee, our local community, and I've worked hard over the years to invest in economic development, infrastructure, and I want to be that voice for the people of District 44. And know that I'll always listen to you, just like I did when I was your county commissioner for 12 years.
Thank you. Tim?
Thank you. I'll share it with everybody else. I'm going to go back on my four priorities, my 4 pillars: strengthen our economy, balance the budget without raising taxes, supporting world-class education, and ensuring we have resources to overcome COVID. I also want to remind voters again that I'm running against Merrill Pepcorn, not Dave Pepcorn, the city commissioner. My opponent at times can be a likable guy, I'll fully admit that, but unfortunately has not produced and needs to be replaced. Just like businesses, some employees just don't work out. I have a 90% pass rate in my past 4 sessions in the legislature. That matters. My opponent was ranked 47 out of 47 senators when he started, and now 4 years later, he's still ranked 47 out of 47 in the Senate. He has passed 0 bills where he is the main sponsor, and with a 0.00% pass rate on sponsored bills, he holds the record as the lowest pass rate in the 131 years history of North Dakota. It's time for change because North Fargo needs bold, trusted, and innovative senators. I'm Tim Flacco. I stand for the national anthem. I support our good law enforcement officers, firefighters, first responders, and the people in the front line that make North Dakota the greatest state in the United States.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move along. Merrill?
Thank you for this opportunity to come here and talk to our voters tonight. And I'd like to thank my opponent for mentioning my name several times in the time he has allotted to talk about himself and his party. The supermajority that our opponents are talking about, that's one of the problems in Bismarck. We need a more balanced legislature because all of the legislation can be decided behind closed doors, and adding a couple of more Republican legislators isn't going to do anything to solve that. I would like to see North Dakota investing in energy. We need to diversify. We need to get the Environmental and Energy Research Center in Grand Forks to look to the future for our energy sources. And in the meantime, when we talk about oil, I'm proud of my record in working with state agencies. Everybody who works for the state, they're not villains. There are a lot of good people working there. I'm proud for standing up for the Department of Trust Lands when the oil companies are trying to renege on payments they agreed to long ago. I'm proud to standing up for Game and Fish when they are standing up for us and protecting the environment. I appreciate the residents and the voters of District 44. I appreciate their support and encouragement and look forward to serving them again in the next legislative session. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our forum for this evening. Thank you once again to our candidates, and good night to everyone at home. Good evening, and thank you to all the candidates for joining us for night one of the 2020 Cass County Candidate Forums hosted by the League of Women Voters. My name is Katie Rudder. I am currently serving on the board of the League of Women Voters of the Red River Valley, and I will be your moderator for this forum. This forum is being streamed live and also recorded for playback on the City of Fargo's government PEG TV channel, TV Fargo 56. This recording will also be posted to the League of Women Voters of the Red River Valley's Facebook page. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization which encourages informed and active participation in government, works to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and influences public policy through education and advocacy. If you want to learn more about what the League does and how to join, please visit our website or find us on Facebook. We want to thank the City of Fargo tonight for providing this space and also for providing technical assistance for us. Before we begin, I'd like to review the rules and procedures for the candidates and for our viewers at home. Questions have been submitted in advance by the public online. Questions may have been screened for clarity or combined with similar questions. All candidates will be given an opportunity to address each question. Our candidates participating tonight are candidates for the Cass County Commission. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for their opening remarks. Each will then be allowed 1 minute to respond to each question that I ask. At the conclusion of the Q&A period, candidates will be given another minute for their closing remarks. The clock above me will indicate how much time is remaining and how much time you have left when your time is done, And when you hear the buzzer, that means your time has expired. Please complete your sentence so that we might move on to the next candidate. We'll begin opening statements with Chad down here, and we will go down the line, proceeding in turn. Chad, you have the floor.
Thank you. I won the lottery of going first. Hi, my name is Chad Peterson. I'll start personally. I am North Fargo born and bred. I am a lion, a bobcat, a Spartan, and a bison. Graduated from North Dakota State University in 1990 with a Bachelor of Architecture and Environmental Design. I've owned businesses off and on since I was in junior high. I'm happily married, have an amazing kid, and a reasonably decent fur kid as well. She has her moments. Professionally, I've owned a number of businesses. Like I said, I've owned businesses with as many employees as 90, as few as one myself. I've owned commercial property, multifamily property. I'm pretty well diversified in my experiences in my life, personally and professionally. I've served prior to my election about 8 years ago. I served on any number of boards, statewide, locally, regionally. I've served on foundations. I've served on county planning commission, school reorganization. I could go on and on. After my election, I've been lucky to be blessed to be either chair or vice chair of the county commission for 6 of my 8 years. My peers put a lot of trust in me, and I'm blessed. Statewide, I serve as the vice president of the County Commissioner Association that's elected at large from other commissioners around the state. Nationally, I also serve on the North Dakota Insurance Reserve Board, representing all counties in the state of North Dakota. Nationally, I serve on the Rural Action Caucus, as well as the Justice and Public Safety Commission. I have just been appointed as the vice chair of the National Association of Counties Homeland Security Subcommittee. It's hard to believe that that's happened. I'm really just a guy from North Fargo, and I got an email from the Democrat senator of Hawaii asking for my input on FEMA dollars. That happened, and I'm still hard-pressed to believe it's real. I'm so humbled and blessed to be where I am. I'm so humbled and blessed to be trusted by all my peers locally, statewide, nationally, that again, I'm just a guy from North Fargo trying to do my best for what I think is right and represent the constituents here locally, of course, in District 1, but statewide as well. And with that, I'll hush my mouth.
Thank you. Lydia.
Thank you. My name is Lydia Tackett, and I'm running for County Commission in District 1. I'm a geologist, and I research and teach at NDSU, and I live in Fargo with my husband. As a geologist, I'm looking forward to applying.
You can keep
That's
going.
a fast 2 minutes.
Looks like they're adjusting the clock. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Just talk, you're fine. Just the clock at these things.
I know mine's under 2 minutes, so I'll keep going. As a geologist, I'm looking forward to applying my background in long-term landscape changes when evaluating components of the diversion and other principal building projects. As a proud and involved member of my state employees union, I've had the opportunity to discuss economic issues with workers of all different backgrounds. I will advocate for working families who want to put down roots in Cass County and that allow this community to continue to thrive. As an educator, I know the value of outreach and education. We have excellent services in Cass for people who need help, and I will grow how we communicate these services to those in need. I will work to make the activities of the Cass County Commission more accessible to working people of Cass so that you can participate and make your voice heard. Finally, I want to thank the League of Women Voters and the people staying up to watch this forum. These types of public forums are crucial for community engagement and are a standard to strive for among all the boards and commissions in Cass. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim?
Good evening, and thank you, Katie, for the invitation to be here this evening. My name is Jim Capitan, and I'm a candidate for District 3 Cass County Commission. I have 42 years' experience with the City of Fargo, which includes 23 years with the City Assessor's Office, 18 years as the manager of Hector International Airport, and 1 year as the Human Resource Director for the City of Fargo. I served 8 years as the Fargo Park Board Commissioner and President of the Board twice. My military experience includes 38 years in command positions of disaster preparedness and security police in the United States Air Force Reserve and the North Dakota Air National Guard. I spent 3 years as a Homeland Security instructor after 9/11, specializing in the Incident Command System and weapons of mass destruction. I have been an independent contractor for the state of North Dakota for 16 years as a public assistance coordinator during presidential disaster declarations. I am a certified emergency management professional. I have been a partner in ownership of over 60 apartment units in Moorhead, Hillsborough, and Castleton, 3 commercial buildings in downtown Fargo, Village West Acres Shopping Mall, and 5 condominium units in Scottsdale, Arizona. As a commissioner, I am for the completion of the FM diversion project, and I would like to ensure that all necessary buyouts by the diversion have been negotiated fairly and equitably. I am for the Career Workforce Academy that is being proposed by the North Dakota State College of Science, City of Fargo, City of West Fargo, and many school districts. I am for business expansion and economic development by approving incentives that the tax increment financing and the payment in lieu of taxes programs provide. I am for affordable housing and tax equalization. The median home price in Cass County today exceeds $210,000, most of which, by the way, my opponent has continually voted against. Thank you.
Thank you. Ken, your opening statement?
Hi, my name is Ken Pollock. I want to tell you a few things about myself. I graduated from Fargo South High School and attended NDSU. After I got out of school, I bought a farm in Barnes County and farmed there for 5 years, raising wheat, sunflowers, and beef. My wife June and I moved back to Fargo in '76 and started Pollock Champion Auto. The business grew to 8 stores in 4 different cities. We sold the automotive stores to the company that eventually became O'Reilly's Automotive. After we sold our stores, I started farming and farmed again for another 3 years in Cass County. I now rent out my farmland and serve as a Cass County Commissioner. I first ran for the Cass County Commission in 2004 and have been elected to 3 terms. I left service as a County Commissioner in 2016 and was appointed to the Southeast Cass Water Resource District as a water manager. The appointment to Southeast Cass led to my appointment to the Cass Joint Water Resource District as a manager. I also served 25 years as a member of the Airport Authority for Hector Airport. When my friend Vern Bennett passed away as a sitting county commissioner, I was appointed to fill his unexpired term by the Cass County Commission by unanimous consent. I'm eligible to run for the seat I was appointed to and ask today for your support as County Commissioner for District 3. My name is Ken Pollock. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Good evening. Thank you for hosting this event and for inviting me this evening. And thank you for the online audience that has joined us as well. My name is Mary Sherling, and I'm a Cass County Commissioner from District 5. I have served for nearly 8 years. I've called Cass County my home for nearly 30 years. My family includes my husband, Patrick, owner of Sherling Photography, a third-generation, 101-year-old business. I have 4 sons and their wives and 4 grandchildren complete my family. I'm a real estate broker and have helped property owners buy and sell real estate in small towns and large, from one end of this county to the other. I understand the importance of county services, including safety, good roads and bridges, and water management. Over the past 8 years of serving you, I have gained much experience and knowledge in all of these areas and more. My current portfolio includes the Sheriff's Office and jail. I am the immediate past chair of the FM diversion. Under my leadership as chair of the FM diversion, the state of Minnesota issued the permit for Plan B. We also secured not only a $750 million North Dakota legislative commitment, but an additional $300 million federal participation. I also helped secure low-interest, long-term federal funding that will save taxpayers money and ensure the project is completed and our residents aren't saddled with high flood insurance premiums, nor have to continue to risk losing their homes and businesses to flooding. I am the current chair of the Red River Basin Commission and the first woman to be so. This is a grassroots organization of officials from North Dakota, Minnesota, and Manitoba working on water issues of all sorts. In addition, I am a U.S. member of the International Red River Board working to resolve water disputes on our international border. I'm also the current chair of the Cass County Flood Sales Tax Committee, helping to fund rural flood protection projects in communities throughout the county. I represent the county on the Fargo Planning Commission and serve on the board of directors of the North Dakota Association of Counties, representing Southeast North Dakota counties. It would be my great honor to continue to serve you.
Thank you. Marty.
Hello, my name is Marty Johnson, and I'm running for Cass County Commissioner, District 5. I've taken this challenge on because I think we need, I'm not a politician, I'm a resident. I've been a resident for all my life here in Cass County, and I'm married and have 2 wonderful children. But what I'm looking at is more listening to the residents, knowing they have a voice and a person on their side when it comes to important questions. I do have a Facebook page out. It's Marty Johnson for Cass County Commissioner at District 5. If you dial that up on Facebook, you'll see my profile picture. You'll see a video. Look at that video, and I'm asking everybody, if they like it, to share it with the residents of Cass County so they all know what I stand for. I come with common sense. I come with a farm background. And it's been a long time since someone with a rural background has been on the Cass County Commissioner. I'm here to support issues. I'm here to work as a team. I kind of look at it as a Class B basketball team. If you have 5 people playing all together for the good of Cass County, you'll come up with better ideas, newer ideas, fresh ideas. And I hope people get out and vote. Your vote does count. Your voice will be heard. And I'll be proud to be a commissioner. As it looks, I look like a rookie on this team. But if you looked at a lot of good rookies in baseball and football, they did shine in their years and they became important players in our commission.
Thank you. We'll continue on with our questions. Lydia, this first question will start with you. What do you see as the County Commission's role in handling the ongoing pandemic? Are there measures you would propose or oppose?
That's a complicated question. I think we've had to keep up with all the news, the fact that we're seeing our numbers going up again, and once college started up again, we're seeing more and more people who are contracting COVID. I think that the role of the County Commission could be to advocate for some short-term emergency measures that could help people keep the jobs that they need, or to be able to do them remotely, either through technology grants or short-term paid family leave.
Thank you. Jim?
Well, right now, I think the county has implemented some measures like all the employees in the, I believe, in the county courthouse anyway, in jails or in the sheriff's department, they do wear masks. However, there are a couple of commissioners that refuse to wear the mask. But that be the biggest thing, I think, is the influx of inmates in the jail right now. With the COVID-19 going on, the jail is at almost its capacity. I think they got around 310 inmates right now, and they're looking to transport some of the inmates to different counties that will take them. But the other counties are tied to the same type of situation that Cass County is. So it's an ongoing problem and not an easy one to solve. But I think right now they're doing as good a job as they possibly can.
Thank you. Ken?
So I think the most important thing is to keep the county staff safe. And right now we have protocols in place that allow the public access to the courthouse and to the courts and allow the continued operation. At the same time, we're protecting the health of the employees who work there. There's about 400 employees in Cass County, so that's a big responsibility. The jail operations is a real concern, and law enforcement, that's the biggest area of operation and the biggest budget portion that Cass County has. And so far, the jail protocols that have been put in place are working. And we don't have any examples of staff getting sick from the employees or getting sick from the inmates in the jail. And I think that we've got a good system. We have a great sheriff working. This is a real challenge for everyone. We're all sick of wearing masks, and we're all sick of being tied up as we are. But we just have to pay attention to the big three protocols: masks, social distancing, and washing our hands.
Thank you. Mary?
Thank you. The jail is actually part of my portfolio, so I visit with the sheriff almost daily on protocols that we are following in the jail. We've recently received some federal dollars to implement in the jail and working on making several improvements to expand our ability to care for those inmates and make sure that they stay safe. Countywide, we've, with our employees, we've implemented a number of different avenues that we can utilize that I think we'll continue to utilize. And these virtual meetings are just one example of them. I think it's great that we can have people sitting at home this evening if they choose to join us. So hopefully we'll get some more participation in county government that way. And finally, I think just a little more broadly, in the county's role in prevention, we are part of Cass Fargo Public Health, and we have a board member on there. Our commission chair is very, very involved. I'm sure he'll speak to that. But I do think that what's going on in Page or Buffalo or Alice or Castleton or Kindred is completely different than the metro area. And so those communities need to make decisions that are probably going to differ for how it's handled here in Fargo and West Fargo.
Thank you. Marty?
Yeah, the COVID-19, it's hit everybody. And I think the biggest thing is use common sense. If you feel like you got symptoms, go get checked. I'm not a fan of wearing a mask, but you have to kind of do what each city requires to protect people. And if it means wearing a mask, going into business places, please do so. And if we all work together, use common sense, and I think we've done great strides in the state of North Dakota and Cass County. And I think if we just follow the protocol that each commission makes, we'll all come out a lot better and smarter on this program.
Thank you. Chad?
Solve the plague in 60 seconds. Ready, go. I contend we continue doing what we've been doing. We keep our staff safe. We keep our customers safe. That's not only our friends in our jail, but it's the visitors to the courthouse. As a reminder, we never shut our courthouse down. We had a couple of outbreaks among staff, but those were people that were all working remotely. So the courthouse has been and remains safe. I think it's important, too, to work with our friends in the state. We don't have the scientists and researchers here in Fargo. We have an amazing, as Commissioner Sherling said, an amazing group at Cass Public Health, but they're not the backbone of where the research is. They're the protection arm of what keeps us safe. And I think when it comes time for the commission to make a broader decision, two things. First, we need to be treated on a county-by-county basis. That came from a lead of us in our COVID task force. As if you recall, we were a statewide solution. We've now gone county-by-county, and that's smart because, again, I think as Commissioner Sherling said, we need to be treated as individuals, not as our neighbors. If our neighbors have none and we have 300, it's a different scenario. So I think we need to keep teaming with our friends in the state, keep doing what we've been doing. If you're curious to find out what we've been up to, please check online at the Fargo City website, Cass County website, and I'll stop there. Like I said, solve the plague in 60 seconds.
Thank you. Tim, we'll start with you for the next question. Besides pandemic response, what are your top policy priorities for Cass County? Jim, we'll begin with you.
Top priorities for Cass County? Well, I'd say the top priorities for at least me would be education in the workforce academy, business expansion by working with the city on the TIF and pilot programs, tax equalization and fiscal policy would be the top priorities. Especially in the workforce academy, that's being sponsored by the city of Fargo, city of West Fargo, and many of the school districts. And it's not only because of people don't probably need to have a college degree anymore. They do probably need an education, of course, and a trade school might be part of it. And some of the people, like in John Deere or some of the larger companies here, can't afford to send their workers to down to Wapton to science school for further their education, but they can get their updated continued ed through this workforce academy.
Thank you. Ken.
I would say that my top priority is to see that we complete the FM diversion. I want to continue with the current policies that the commission has put in place. We're doing a lot of positive things for business growth and incentive in the county. You know, our county is growing robustly, and we're going to continue that. I'm involved heavily with the Workforce Academy. I sit on the steering committee, and we've and I think that we'll be able to break ground on that probably within the next 12 months. I mean, this is a big deal. So I just want to see. I don't have any big new plans that I want to put in place, but I'm very conservative with the dollar, and we look close, and I think that we provide value for the taxpayers in Cass County, and that's my hope to continue to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary.
Thank you. Well, proactive water management, permanent flood protection. I am still on the Diversion Board of Authority and chair the Diversion Land Management Committee, a very important committee right now as we get ready to begin with the levees and all the land that we're going to need to finish this project with. I'm also very concerned about affordable housing and public safety, including maintaining our rural roads and bridges. I serve also on the Fargo Planning Commission, and I'm happy to see some of the new projects that are coming forward, both in Fargo and West Fargo for public housing. I think those are really important.
Thank you. Marty.
My high priorities is the Workforce Academy. I believe that's a great program for young people who can't afford college, or, you know, not everybody can do a college education, but they can get training and they can provide good jobs or have jobs in the community. The other thing I want to look at is taxes. I think we've just put a lot of burden on the residents of Cass County with every tax that keeps coming down the pipeline. I like to see balancing it or sunsetting some taxes so we can still have a fair tax valuation. I believe permanent flood protection should be finished. It's gone on too long. We should have an answer. And as a landowner that's getting bought out, I haven't been approached by anybody to come up with a permanent resolution to my farmland. And I just hope that can come here shortly so we can keep moving something ahead on this program.
Thank you. Chad?
Thank you. When I ran for office 8 years ago, one of my big campaign messages was I'm not going to show up to kick the door down and reinvent government and make it the way I wanted it to be. There's something to be said about the status quo. Yes, it can be cumbersome and boring and mundane, but there's something to be said if it works. I think we need to keep doing what we've been doing. I think the county government's set up well. I think the department heads are set up well. I think the courthouse is well organized. I think we have an amazing staff. We have 450 some employees countywide, all of them amazing. We need to keep going with that. We need to work with our friends at the state. We've had a recent takeover of social services. There's a void of roughly $500,000 in our funding, not including some of the copiers and things like that. We're talking legal services. We need to work with our friends in Bismarck for an education session to get them to understand that Cass is unique. We're not bigger, we're not better, we're not flashier, we're just different. We're one of 2 counties of 53 that have legal services tied to social services. Again, that would be a direct tax increase. In the next session would be a direct tax increase of $500,000. We need to rethink the way we've been doing incarceration because we simply can't build our way out of the jail needs that we have. And I've been an advocate for that recently too. And you can check videos online at seminars and forums I've attended. So if I have one big thing, it would be reinventing incarceration. And I'll stop there. I'll go for an hour.
Thank you. Lydia?
Thank you. My number one priority as a Cass County Commissioner would be to find ways to prioritize increased wages for working families in Cass. Cass County is kind of unique in having experienced a significant amount of growth in recent years, but we have really low unemployment and a really high workforce shortage. We should be seeing wages increasing, and that's not the case. So I'd like to find ways that we can incentivize businesses that if they're not just bringing jobs, but making sure that they're good jobs and that inspire families to want to move to Cass and to stay here. I think we lose a lot of good people in Cass. So I'd like to incentivize businesses to do that in any capacity that I can. I'm interested in the Workforce Academy, but coming into the next couple of years, I'm not so sure if that would be a priority for spending, unless they were receiving a lot of guidance from the trade unions who are already running self-funded apprenticeship programs that often give college credit.
Thank you. Ken, we'll go to you first for the next question. What do you see as the path for Cass County to transition to clean energy?
The path for Cass County to transition to clean energy, I think, would revolve around the land resource that comprises Cass County. I think that there's availability and an interest for some wind farm placement. Matter of fact, there's a battery, a solar powered placement that's under consideration right now. But as far as the path for clean energy, I really don't know that there's much different that we would be doing there in the near future. Perhaps a move to electric vehicles. I can see that that's possible. It's something we have not even considered, or at least I haven't. I would say that that's logical. Beyond that, I guess it's to monitor the transmission lines that run through our county and just to see that we have effective planning for the projects that might come forward.
Thank you. Mary?
Thank you. We have been approached on a couple of occasions with some solar farms and some windmill farm now that would be planted in a couple of years. In Cass County, those restrictions or developments are approved by the townships, not by the county. So it really is up to the landowner if they want to rent out their farmland for something like that and whether or not the township would agree to permit it. So it really isn't something that by law Cass County can encourage or discourage.
Thank you. Marty?
Well, I'm looking what Ken said too. I said, I don't think we've got a big problem with this. Solar power farm, maybe. But you'd have to look at what the cost would be, to put something like that and what benefit we got from it. But I think just using good common sense and tackle the problems as we see fit, down the line, and if there is a good idea, maybe pursue it or get in a committee and look at it strongly so we are making the correct decisions. Thank you.
Thank you. Chad?
The best thing we can do is stay out of the way. We have no jurisdiction here. But what we can do, obviously, is listen, advocate if someone feels they're being taken advantage of on a local level, meaning a township or jurisdiction like that. But again, as Commissioner Schilling said, the zoning authority sits with those. We've had Geronimo Energy come forth, and that's the solar plant we talked about. That was a roughly $450 million proposal. These are all heavily subsidized projects that need all kinds of federal and state aid to happen. But that was 2 or 3 years ago. That's gone by the wayside. We just had recently, I think one commission meeting ago, a wind tower, as Commissioner Schilling said, come through a wind tower farm, and they may be siting out somewhere in North Dakota. And I think that's a $250 to $350 million organization group plan. And I think it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it if private landowners and the local jurisdictions want to put those things up. And obviously, it's a sacrifice of farmland, and that's part of the dialogue you have with the local jurisdiction. But really, I think we just need to stay out of the way and say if it works, super. If it doesn't, so be it. It's with the Public Service Commission and the local townships.
Thank you. Lydia?
I agree with the other candidates here that if it's outside of the jurisdiction of the County Commission, there's not much to be done legislatively. But from a sustainability perspective, I definitely, support the idea of more sustainable renewable energy sources, things like wind power, biofuels, batteries were mentioned. I think there's some really cutting edge areas that are growing fields that we could take advantage of here in Cass with a lot of our college graduates. But from a worker's perspective, on the front end, if we ever do have the opportunity to weigh in on these kinds of issues, if we could on the front end talk about for example, things like in wind power, talking about worker safety, benefits, and some of these things that have kind of historically lagged behind in terms of wages for some of the other trades, although that information might be a little bit out of date. I hope it is.
Thank you. Jim?
Well, I can't add anything more than what everybody else has said here about this one. Like they said, it's stay out of the way. I don't think nobody's ever come to Cass County and looked for oil or dug for coal or anything like that. So the only thing that we do offer is the ability for wind power, and like it's been said, that's up to the landowner and for the townships. Thank you, Mary. For the townships to decide and for the landowners. So like it was said, stay out of the way and press forward.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next question, and we'll start with Mary with this one. If COVID affects county revenues, where would you consider making changes in the budget?
Well, I think our budget is really in good shape right now. We've got funds, reserve funds built up so that we don't just go paycheck to paycheck for the county budget. So, if we need to dip into another fund, we can do so. But we can also go line by line, department by department, and see if there are areas that we could delay spending, whether it be large equipment. At some point we're going to need to expand the jail. There's any number of things that are on the horizon. Do we do them today or do we do them tomorrow? And, I think one of the things that Cass County has proven time and again is that we're very, very resilient here. Our economy has been very resilient. I suspect that we will recover long before many other parts of the country do.
Thank you. Marty?
Well, COVID, the expenses and stuff like that, but you just can't deferred a lot of money out of the budget just to fix one problem. You have to look at the whole budget as itself. And I think we've had great leadership in county commissioners and, you know, the local towns that are aware of this, but you just can't put all your eggs in one basket and hurt other budgets. You have to balance them, and if there is an excess that we can use temporarily to solve something in COVID, I'd be more than happy to look at that and approve something like that. But you have to be a steward of the county to make sure you don't dip too hard in something else and cause another endemic problem of funds.
Thank you, Chad.
Thank you for this question. I think the reality is we don't have a lot of fluffy spots within our budget. We've intentionally, I'd like to think I was one of the leaders in this, have controlled the rate of growth to a point of reason where we didn't expand things needlessly, had on 50 staff, or create pet projects for commissioners that would suck up tens of thousands of dollars because someone has an interesting concept or an idea that then grows into something more. I think if we had to look at cuts, I think as Commissioner Schilling said perfectly, what you do is look at deferring expenditures. But when we defer expenditures on things like roads, what happens? Well, prices go up. Wear and tear on the road accelerates because as a road gets worse, it gets even worse exponentially so as time passes. So that road becomes more expensive to repair. So again, I think going back to the baseline of controlling the rate of growth, making sure you have only what you need, and providing the services to citizens that are desperately needed in times like this. It's tough to say you can cut because it makes no sense. And again, we don't have, because of good leadership within our county commission, we don't have that 20%, 10%, 5% overage that can we simply just wash away and pretend it never existed.
Thank you. Lydia.
Thank you. I've been at NDSU for 6 years, and 5 of those years, I think, have been years of budget cuts. I know how to rub 2 pennies together and to get some good research done. But I've also seen a lot of the unintended consequences that can pop up from cuts that are not made without serious consideration, and that you lose really important things that are worth more by cutting some small amounts. I think that what we should do is increase the outreach to the community for programs that we already have that are doing a great job. For example, things like veteran services. There's been some turnover there where I think we're going to see a lot of vets that need those services more. And we already have that program in place. Let's make some strategic investments into some outreach to the veteran community. I agree that we should look at deferring expenses and making careful inventory of current costs and seeing how we can maximize their use for existing programs before we seriously consider cutting those programs.
Thank you. Jim.
Well, the pandemic could cause a lot of budget problems. And if it were to be the case, I think I would ask all the department heads to go line by line and cut out any duplication that might exist depending on the severity of the pandemic. I would tend to leave the highway department, the sheriff's department alone. The farm to market roads need to be in good shape, and some other roads could probably get by just by just by blading. The sheriff's department has about 15 patrol officers, and that comes to about 5 per shift to cover over 640 miles of road miles. With the pandemic as it is right now, Cass County Jail, again, is at its capacity of around 310 inmates. And as far as the highway department is concerned, the construction cost index increases annually by about 8%. And so right now, it costs about $1.8 million to rebuild just 1 mile of road.
Thank you. Ken.
Would you please repeat the question?
Absolutely. If COVID affects county revenues, where would you consider making changes in the budget?
Well, the first point I would like to make is that all county services are essential. We run a very tight ship in the county, and there's not services that aren't needed by the public that we're providing right now. If we were forced to cut, I think that the first thing that we would probably look at, or I would consider, would be across the board cuts. Let's say 5% or 8%, whatever the number is that we need to work with. Because I think that would preserve most of the county departments and most of the staff, and the public should have the delivery of services that they expect. I believe for a short-term solution to delay the capital projects, maybe we run the cars for one more year. Maybe we don't buy a new road grader out at the highway department. Maybe instead of paving 10 miles of road, we pave 5 miles of road and do 5 miles the next year. I think that there's a savings that can be had there. But finally, I'd like to make the point that the County Commission has budgeted ample reserves. I don't believe that we'll be in that position because we have the reserves to handle any shortfalls should they occur.
Thank you. We have time for one final question. I'll note for the viewers at home, if you didn't get your question asked tonight, we encourage you to reach out to your candidates. If they have a Facebook page, if they have a website, they would love to answer your questions. So, Marty, we'll start with you for our final question of the evening before we proceed to closing remarks. What do you see as the role of county government in making sure Cass County is welcoming to new and current residents from all races, nations of origin, and political views?
Loaded question in a minute. What I'd like to see is us listening more, making the residents feel like they are a part of our team. I mean, there's 5 members up here, but at least make the residents aware that we want to get input on different questions or programs, attend county commission meetings so we can hear what the voice of Cass County is asking. And that's like a homework assignment for residents. Please come and support the county commission, and let's all work together so we can work on these problems or these race, ethnic problems, so we're more diverse and being willing to be a good county commission. I think a good county commissioner is a steward of Cass County, and that's where I'll leave it at.
Thank you. Chad.
Sure. Thank you. I guess the implication of the question is that we're not. I contend North Dakota and Minnesota Nice exists. I think that we are a very welcoming community. And I guess let me touch on what we do with the refugee population. I've been advocating for surety that we can support the people that we bring in. There's some people who are against that. Of course there are. There's always going to be people that are against whatever it is, whether it's this thing of water or the pop I'm drinking. But the reality is the disproportionate majority of people are perfectly fine with the refugee population coming in. And people like me want to make sure that they're supported in whatever they want to do, be it a stay-at-home mom, be it the next astronaut or engineer. That's the struggle. And again, I think that the struggle we have is that, again, the implication of the question is that the Fargo-Moorhead, West Fargo community is not welcoming. It's more than welcoming. And I need to see proof, evidence, somehow that we're not. I guess that's what I'd ask the person asking the question. Where's that person's experience that they feel that we're not a welcoming community? I'd love to hear that dialogue. I'd love to open that dialogue. I talk with the people at Black Lives Matters, and I'm not given any specific tangible things. So I think that we are a welcoming community.
Thank you. Lydia.
Would you repeat the question, please?
Yes. What do you see as the role of county government in making sure Cass County is welcoming to new and current residents from all races, nations of origin, and political views?
I do think Cass County has room to grow in terms of being accepting to people of different backgrounds. I think some of the ways that we can resolve that is by aggressively seeking out the input from those exact communities that might not have felt comfortable coming to the Cass County Commission historically. We need to reach out to those communities. We need to make sure that they can come, invite them, seek input. I'd like to see Cass County Commission become more accessible. I understand that there's strides being made for live streaming of the meetings. That's the way it should be, and that's the way it should have been. I think we need to move a little further than that, though. The North Dakota legislature is incorporating a high flex system for the coming session, where we can actually provide testimony. People from who are working families would be able to provide testimony remotely. That would allow them to participate in our meetings. And I'd like to hold office hours, similarly like I do as a faculty member. I make myself available to as many people as possible. We need to seek out those voices.
Thank you. Jim?
Yeah, refugees, if that's the right terminology, are a part of our community and have been for a number of years. One of the things, though, that I would like to know is the actual numbers that are coming into Cass County, so we can afford to find out what they're doing, where they're housing at, and that type of thing. The other thing I'd like to really know about them is what are their professions? What were their professions in the country that they came from? Right now, I've known a couple of people who are engineers, and one was a doctor in their country, and obviously couldn't get his doctor's degree here in the States yet, but some of the engineers are working as janitors. Why not use their ability and their professions in our community if they're available? But we don't know that, and that's part of the problem that we have.
Thank you. Ken?
I think that we at Cass County are very welcoming for new refugees and people coming in here. The school provides the English as a second language classes and does a lot of help to get them settled. On the county level, we deal with the first stop for the new immigrants or the new Americans is with Cass County Social Services, and we've taken great strides in the county in order to accommodate the needs with translators and programs and to deal with the social needs that our new visitors have. One of the things that the new Americans really need they need jobs, and business and industry is crying for workers, manufacturing workers, welders, and that the community there has a lot of resources available to them with good jobs, good paying jobs in Cass County. The other aspect is on law enforcement, and our law enforcement takes special pains to be considerate and appropriate with the contact that they have with the new Americans, as they do with all the citizens in Cass County.
Thank you. Mary?
Well, I was chair of the county commission last year, and one of the things I implemented was strategic planning sessions for the staff to try to identify ways that we could improve. And one of the things that came out of that was trying to ensure that the public is made aware of county activities. And I would just shamelessly right now please encourage your audience, if anybody's listening, we've got board vacancies at the county level. We would love to have people apply for them. We just filled one on vector control, and there's the weed board, and there's planning commission. There's, if anybody lives in the Fargo ET area, for the Fargo Planning Commission, there's any number of boards that we would welcome folks to. Please just go to our website and we'll get you the forms. Thanks.
Thank you very much. So that concludes the Q&A portion of our evening. We'll move on to closing statements. First, a couple notes. I want to thank everyone who submitted questions for our candidates this evening. I'd also like to thank our candidates once again for participating in this forum. And also, if you would like to learn more about your candidates, the League of Women Voters has partnered with Forum Communications to present the Vote 411 Voters Guide to help you learn more about North Dakota candidates' positions on important issues. This is statewide. Stay tuned to the forum and the League Facebook page. The Voters Guide will be released on September 28th. Now we'll proceed to closing statements. Chad, we've returned to you.
Oh boy, I get to start and I get to finish. Thanks. Not sure what camera to look at. I'm presuming it's this one, but I love this job. I was in county government for 12 years prior to my election for a reason, because I enjoy working. I enjoy public service. I was blessed enough to be serving the last 8 years, 2 elections, as your county commissioner from District 1, which is essentially North Fargo and downtown Fargo, part of West Fargo. I would be honored and humbled if you were to select me again. I think I've done a good job. My peers think I've done a good job. On the state level and national level, my peers think I've done a good job. I'd like to think you think I've done a good job as well. I enjoy the job. I'm active. I've missed, in my 8 years of service, I think I've missed 3 meetings. I think it's actually 2, but I'm going to say 3 in case I forgot one. And one was because I was appointed to a national leadership school. So in reality, I've missed 1 meeting in 8 years. I'm going to say 2 because, again, I might have missed 1. I do this for a reason. I do it because I have a passion for it. I do it because I love it. Public service is in my blood as it's been in my family's blood. I would be honored and humbled, like I said before, if you were to select me again to represent you on District 1 in North Fargo. Thank you. And thank you to League of Women Voters, of course. Thank you to everyone watching. Thank you to everyone taking your time, because I realize that local government isn't the flashiest. We were called milquetoast by the Fargo Forum when I met with your editor to try to get some more exposure, not yours, but I think we're exciting. I think we're dynamic, and I think county government's important. Whether you select me or my opponent, educate yourself and become engaged in local government, because we matter. We absolutely do, and I will stop myself again. Thank you.
Lydia.
When I think about the role of the Cass County Commission and how I can participate in it, I think about a World War II story, which goes like that the Navy was looking at planes that were returning from war, had bullet holes in them, and they were considering where they could add additional armor in order to make the planes safer without adding more bulk. So they were asking themselves, should we put more armor in the places where there are more bullet holes? And the answer is no. You have to put the armor in the places where you don't have bullet holes, because the planes that didn't return are the ones, that's where the bullets were going. I think that the Cass County Commission is not hearing enough from working families. I think those are the planes that aren't coming back. I think we need to reach out to working families of all different backgrounds and areas of industry to hear what working families need from us, not just what business needs from them. I'm interested in collaboration, brainstorming. I'm a really creative person. I love talking to people and finding solutions to the problems that they bring me. My goal as a county commissioner is to work for working people, to find sustainable solutions for growth, and to make Cass a welcoming home for all families. And I implore you to please vote this year. The Cass County Commission has an enormous budget that affects aspects of your life. So please vote this year.
Thank you. Jim.
Again, thank you for the invitation, for allowing us to be here this evening. I'd like to say that I think I am the most experienced and best candidate for this position for the reasons I stated in my opening statement. My opponent has been in office for 13 years, while the Cass County Home Rule Charter states that they can only serve for 3 successive 4-year terms. It's time for a new voice in Cass County and for all of Cass County. I'm presently being endorsed by Bruce Furness, the former mayor of the city of Fargo, Tony Grinberg, former state senator and Fargo City Commissioner, Dave Pepcorn, deputy mayor and Fargo City Commissioner, Arlen Rasmussen, the former West Fargo police chief and Cass County Commissioner, Paul Laney, the former Cass County sheriff, and Sandy Beeler, the Republican National Committee woman for North Dakota. I am asking for your vote in this upcoming election. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ken.
I have the experience and temperament to be an effective county commissioner. I'm just an average, hardworking guy. I pay my taxes and follow the rules. Every vote and official action I've taken for my 13 years as a county commissioner is recorded and on file. My record is clear. The reason one seldom hears much about the county is that we in the county level just do our job. If there were problems, you certainly would hear about it. I'm proud to say that yesterday the County Commission approved the county 2021 budget. We voted to reduce the tax levy mill rate by 3.9%. As a county commissioner, I've only voted one time to increase the property tax mill levy, and that was after the 2009 flood. Finally, I believe that I've been a good steward for the residents of Cass County and will continue the record of Cass being a very well-run unit of local government. My name is Ken Pollock. I appreciate your consideration and ask for your vote.
Thank you. Mary.
I'm a real estate broker, and I'm an experienced negotiator and problem solver. I work to find solutions for the common good. I'm a hard worker, and I understand the complexities of North Dakota's most populous county and balancing the needs of both rural and urban residents. and I continue to keep your property taxes in check as we move forward. I've worked tirelessly to bring permanent flood protection to not only the metro area, but the surrounding communities as well. I've served as chair of the Cass County Board of Commissioners for 2 years and have navigated some very, very difficult situations. My commitment and experience will serve you well in the coming years, and I humbly ask for your continued support and vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Marty?
Yes, knowing that I'm probably the newest person here, and I just like to have people look at my Facebook page, and I want all people to come out and vote. I want to change things in Cass County. I want to give a rural background back to this county, along with Ken Pollock. He's got a rural background, and I think we'd be able to work together really well. And I appreciate you voting for me, and let's all work together and change and make Cass County even better than it was. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes tonight's forum. Everybody remember to vote.